Hey guys. This is part 2 of What If Naruto Has Dead Bone post Kekkei Genkai. Hit like and subscribe if you like this one, and also please check the author in the description. Let's start. Chapter 9. Felt like no one could hear me. The intermission was over. It was now time to enter the cauldron and complete the mission that had been given to him by his sensei Danzo. It wasn't enough that he had to get promoted, no. Naruto knew what was at stake and what needed to be done. He had to win this fight and win the Chunin exams so that Konoha came out of it looking strong. It wasn't just that though. He also had to send a message to the world that Konoha was not one to be messed with. A Jinchuriki would die today. Naruto knew that Konoha had to send a strong message out to the world that when you try and attempt to invade Konoha, this is what would happen. There would no doubt be inquiries made into the strength of Konoha after the invasion by other nations looking to take whatever pieces of the puzzle that made up the military landscape. "Come on, Naruto! You can do it!" Choji stated with a smile on his face whilst Ino looked at him for an elongated time before giving him a quick hug. "Thanks you guys. I needed that." And he truly meant that. Despite the confidence that Naruto had in his abilities, he knew that this was going to be the hardest fight of his life so far. If the full Bija ever got released, then he knew he stood no chance whatsoever. The blonde-haired boy turned around and walked towards the stairs. He didn't want to waste any chakra using a shunshin to get down to the arena. He was taking absolutely every precaution that came to his mind. Naruto stood there in front of Gaara, who was muttering words underneath his breath. He couldn't help but feel that the person, or rather thing, that he was communicating with was his Bijou. If Gemna noticed this, he didn't make any mention or indicate that he cared about it. He stared down his opponent with an impassive look on his face. Internally, though, he was sweating bullets. This was not your average fight, and Naruto was only now starting to realize just what he had signed up for in fighting a Bijou. The problem was, though, that there was no going back at this point. Far too many innocent people's lives were on the line, and that was not something that Naruto wanted to have on his conscience if he could avoid it. Congratulations to making it this far into the tournament, as we are now at the grand final. The winner of this tournament will be crowned as the champion. Gemna loudly stated, with chakra enhancing his voice much to the delight of the crowd. Naruto! 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 The crowd started cheering fanatically as he was the last person to make it to the finals that hailed from Konoha. He was the only local, and if there was one thing that was for certain, it was that the locality definitely influenced who was the home crowd favorite. After having watched Naruto go through the two original favorites for the tournament whilst coming out of nowhere, Naruto was heavily riding the underdog tag. The funny thing was that to everyone in the know, Naruto was far from the underdog. Whilst he may have not been a favorite, he had shown enough during the previous stages that he was no pushover. With the Hokage having finished giving a speech to thank everyone for coming, it was now that everyone turned their attention to the arena below, and Gemna gave the go-ahead for the match that everyone wanted to see to go ahead. Naruto wasted absolutely no time whatsoever as he sprinted off the ground, hoping to catch Gaara off guard. As he was rushing towards his opponent, Naruto let his bloodline fully come out to play. Bones started coming out all over his body, making it very hard for anything to pierce his skin, as it would get caught by a bone before it even reached his skin. It made Naruto naturally a damn good taijutsu counter. Unfortunately, Gaara wasn't a taijutsu-based fighter at all, and this didn't help Naruto, as sand was easily able to get between the bones and attack his skin. That was where his fire element came into play. All of the bones that Naruto had were shining various shades of orange. The parts of his body which were easier for Naruto to channel chakra to were a brighter color. It just went to show that no matter how much you progressed as a shinobi, there was always somewhere that you could improve on. Naruto rushed towards Gaara at a speed in which his sand could only barely keep up with, and when he tried to swat Naruto down to the ground, the blonde-haired Genin would simply swipe his arm at the sand. Because of the fire manipulation that Naruto was using, he was turning the sand into glass. On one occasion, Naruto sent it back in the direction of Gaara, who didn't budge an inch as his automatic defense blocked the incoming shards of glass before returning to the earth below. Seeing that he wasn't having much luck, Naruto decided that he was going to take a different approach, as he hoped that this one would work. The Uzumaki fired off 2 hands worth of finger bullets at his enemy, whose sand came up to block the rounds. There was cause for concern though, as Gaara watched as the bullets kept slowly coming towards him despite his sand's best efforts to keep the calcium at bay. Eventually, the finger bones came to a grinding halt mere millimeters away from Gaara's face, but as his focus was on that, it meant that it wasn't on Naruto. That was a bad game plan. Naruto was now 10 meters away from Gaara, and for all intents and purposes, many of the civilians, academy students, and some Genin/Chunin thought that this was a mistake. Whilst it was obvious that Naruto knew some ninjutsu, it seemed to them that his main strength was taijutsu and that he should stick to that. They didn't know him well enough. Naruto pointed one hand to his enemy, and then launched another round of finger bullets, only these ones were different. All of the bones that Naruto had coming out of his body had an orange tinge to them thanks to the Katan chakra flowing through them. When he fired off his finger bullets though, the color dissipated as the chakra conductor left his body. These new ones were different though. There was a reason as to why Naruto could only launch 5 of them at a time, and he had to be standing still to do it. These finger bullets didn't lose the color that they had when they left Naruto's body. They kept their charge as Naruto watched with intent as they sailed through the air to their target. Gaara didn't think much more of the slightly different colored projectiles as he knew that it would make a difference. His sand was impenetrable. Well, that was what he thought, at least, because when these bullets hit, they didn't simply try and break through the sand barrier, no. Instead, they exploded on contact. Fragments of bone shards were sent in all different directions. The fragment's flight path was only enhanced by the propulsion coming from the explosion, and it made it a much harder job for the sand to come up and defend Gaara. Out of the 30 shards that came from the explosion, 4 of them managed to bypass the first layer of defense that Gaara had and careened into the second and final armor that the boy had. The shards of bone passed through the layer of sand only barely. It was enough that they got in contact with Gaara's skin, but unfortunately for Naruto, they were unable to break the skin. For the first time in his life, Gaara felt a feeling he had never felt before. That was physical pain. Is this what pain is? It must be. Yes, mother will have your blood, Uzumaki! Gaara shouted as the look in his eyes was so far gone. There was even some slight coloration happening to his eyes. Naruto saw this, and knew that he had to up the ante even more. Naruto sped off once more in an effort to get inside the guard of Gaara and deal some serious damage. As far as the blonde-haired boy was concerned, everything that had happened so far was all meaningless. Just like the fights with Rock Lee, the Suna shinobi was at a loss in how to defend himself against fast shinobi. Naruto was doing much the same game plan that his friend had devised. The only difference was that he was able to deal much more damage in the blows he connected as he his bloodline out in full force. Unfortunately for the Genin, it couldn't all be sunshine and roses as Gaara managed to get a hold of his ankle as he tried to get closer to the red-haired boy. He was flung as hard into the ground and quickly had to get up on his feet as there was large amounts of sand that were coming after him. Naruto did a back flip and got out of the trajectory of the incoming sand before he had a slight second to catch his breath. When those 5 seconds were up though, he was back at it going at 110%. After all, with there being so many lives on the line, there was no way he could fail. He didn't want anyone to hurt the people he cared about. In a surprising move to Gaara, Naruto used the Shunshin to move faster. It was enough to catch his opponent off guard, and Naruto used that to his full advantage as he launched a powerful kick right into the midsection of Gaara. The red-haired boy blocked the incoming kick with ease. This was not something that Naruto was concerned with though, as he planned for this to happen. If it didn't, then that was a bonus. What he did do though was that Naruto got himself in a close position and aimed his right hand and fired. Tenshi Sendan, drilling finger bullets! Naruto shouted out as he fired off the rounds from a point-blank position right into the chest of Gaara. Well, he tried to, as there was the sand that came up to protect its Jinchuriki as best as it could. 2 of the bullets were stopped at the first form of defense in the wall. The next 2 made their way past the wall of sand and hit the sand armor the Gaara was wearing. The final bullet though was slightly different. It managed to make its way past both of Gaara's defenses, and the bullet pierced the skin right below the boy's left clavicle bone. Ah! Gaara screamed. It was right now that a foreign feeling encapsulated the boy. He had no idea what it was, but he didn't like it at all. It was like when Yashimaru betrayed him, but much, much worse. He didn't even notice that the sand came up much quicker and protected him inside a cocoon. Naruto definitely did, as he almost got his hand stuck in the sand, but luckily, through a bit of fire manipulation, he managed to get it out. His train of thought was momentarily interrupted as there was some loud screaming that took place so everyone in the stadium could hear. "It's blood! My blood!" Gaara screamed in terror, as he had never experienced this before. He finally knew the feeling of pain, and he didn't like it. He didn't like it at all. It was time for Mother to come out and destroy his enemy so that he could prove his existence. Naruto wasn't aware of what was going on, but he didn't like the looks of it at all. The sphere of sand that surrounded Gaara was just like the sand when there was no sphere, in the sense that it was sentient and blocking Naruto's attempts to get in close and stab one of his bones into where Gaara was. With Gaara's sand acting as such a good defense, and there being no way around, Naruto knew that he would have to go through Gaara. Luckily, he had created a jutsu over the period of time training that he thought would do just that. As the fight was going on, Temari couldn't help but watch on in fear. She had no idea that Gaara would be getting pushed this far in his fight. Never did she expect anyone to be able to hurt Gaara, let alone for it to be a genin. Just what was Konoha feeding these kids, what with that green spandex wearing kid as well? What this meant for the invasion Temari did not know. They hadn't been given the order yet to unleash the beast, and with the financial state that Sunagakure was in at the moment, anything less than a successful invasion was tantamount to failure. They had to get this right. Whilst he was not thinking about the invasion, Might Guy was thinking about something else entirely. He was thinking about just how talented of a fighter Naruto was. Never in a million years did he expect for someone with the dead bone pulse bloodline to live in Konoha. There was a reason why the specific bloodline was so feared and renowned around the world, which led to its demise. To think that Naruto had it was mind-boggling. He hoped that in the future, with Asuma's approval of course, that he could introduce himself to the boy and work with Naruto in refining his taijutsu to the point of excellence. The amount of potential that he could see in the boy was outstanding. Konoha definitely needed more skilled taijutsu fighters, and as Konoha's taijutsu master, Guy took it upon himself to give back to the village that had given him so much. Kakashi was thinking about Naruto, but not in the same way that Guy was. Sure, he could see the buckets of potential just oozing out of Naruto, but that was only a given considering the fact that his father was none other than Minato Namikaze. It was clear to anyone who actually knew Minato that Naruto looked like a carbon copy of his father. The good thing was for Kakashi was that from the looks of things, Naruto wasn't just a clone of his father. He seemed to have inherited a great deal of confidence, exuberance, and extroverted nature from his mother. When he looked at Naruto, Kakashi was conflicted with his emotions. He couldn't be prouder of the person that he was seeing right in front of his eyes. On the other hand, the silver-haired Jonin would have loved to be a part of the development process of Naruto. There was fear that when he prevented Naruto from joining a team, he was killing the boy's career right before it began, but thankfully, under the guidance of Asuma, Naruto would become a fine shinobi. It wasn't just Kakashi and Guy who were changing their opinions of Naruto whilst watching him fight in the grand final of the Chunin exams. The other person was none other than his godfather. Much like Guy, Jiraiya could see the potential hidden inside of Naruto and couldn't wait to start teaching him. The Toad Sannin already had a few ideas in mind of what he could do in terms of refining the boy and combing his bloodline and fire element into one well-oiled machine. He only wished that Naruto would forgive him for being a lousy godfather. Sure, he knew that objectively, it wasn't his own entire fault and that the needs of the many outweigh those of the few or the one and all as a spy master, but that didn't make things any easier. Jiraiya knew that most of the blame rested squarely on his shoulders. As if he wanted to, he could have made the effort to visit Naruto and interact with the boy, but he didn't. Looking at Naruto now, though, made Jiraiya chuckle. He couldn't help but think that Naruto was destined for great things, and then there was also the fact that the boy was a natural-born leader. "I can't hear you guys! Let me hear some fucking noise!" Naruto shouted as he stood up on a wall of the Colosseum. The second that he finished saying this, raucous noise came from the crowd and a massive grin spread on the face of Naruto. The blonde-haired boy ripped his shirt off, which was much to the delight of the female presence of the stadium. Whilst he somewhat did it because he was pumped up, Naruto also did it because his next move wasn't yet fully completed. Naruto used his left hand to hold onto his right bicep and started channeling chakra into the arm. Bones started coming out of the top layer of skin from both his elbow and fingers. It slowly started to spread across the arm before it connected in the middle. His entire arm was covered in bone armor, and his hand was clenched in a ball, with there being a sharp tip to complete the final process of the first stage. Sweat dripped down the brow of Naruto as the hard part was done. He hadn't been practicing this for all that long, but it was now time for him to put it into use whether he liked it or not. If Gaara was preparing to unleash his bijou right in the stadium, then he had to act now. A spark ignited and the forearm that was covered in thick, dense bone was lit on fire through the manipulation of chakra. A mixture of yellow and orange chakra appeared on the arm of Naruto, and he smirked. This was by far the best he had created in the time that he had spent creating this jutsu. The only problem though was that he hadn't yet given it a name. That was food for thought on a later date if he survived, as Naruto started sprinting down the wall as a way to build up momentum. Danzo had told him about the basic mechanics of the Chidori and how the more speed you built up, the more damage the jutsu did. Naruto took the same principles and applied them to his own jutsu. Naruto sprinted down the wall at a speed which was even faster than before, as he knew what needed to be done. As he was getting closer to Gaara, the Eye of Sand spotted his intentions and did its best to use the sand to not only block Naruto but cripple the person trying to harm Gaara. It didn't work. Naruto was simply too fast and managed to weave his way through the obstacles. Right when he got close, Naruto yanked back his arm and used the stretch reflex to get that little bit more speed and thrusted the weapon surrounding his hand right into the sand sphere. There was some resistance in the reaction to Naruto's attack, but it was nothing that the blonde-haired boy couldn't push through. The spear coating his hand slammed right through the sand and felt the familiar feeling of squelching and cracking of bones and skin being taken out of position. Thankfully his hand was surrounded by bone, as that meant that he didn't feel any of the much that was Gaara's brain. There was no scream, there was very little sound to begin with, as all that was happening was blood was pouring out of the hole and coating Naruto's katan-covered arm. It was death on impact. The sand that surrounded Gaara started to fall down to the ground as there was no chakra circulating through the sand. The sight was not one for the faint of heart. Some people in the stands even vomited as they watched in horror. There was a piece of bone, still on fire, which happened to be melting the skin of Gaara, was slightly to the right of the middle of his forehead. It went through one end and you could see the tip poking out the back if you looked careful enough. Winner of this fight and the winner of the Konoha Chunin exams is Naruto Uzumaki. Gemna shouted out loud, and the second that was stated, raucous laughter erupted and filled the entire stadium. It didn't take long at all for his name to start getting chanted, but that was stopped when bright gold light shot out of the body of Gaara. It hung in the air for a few moments, with everyone dead silent. The Konoha populace was aware of what this was, as they had felt something much worse on the day the Kyuubi attacked. Eventually, the chakra slowly vanished into thin air before it was replaced with a whole bunch of feathers. Naruto felt sleepy but quickly realized that it was a genjutsu. With a pulse of chakra, the genjutsu was gone, and he was no longer affected by it. Explosions rocked through the Colosseum, and a massive purple barrier came up and surrounded the side of the building the Hokage was sitting in. Well, I'd like to say that that's that, and I've done my fair share, but I know I can do more. I wonder if there is any money involved in winning the Chunin exams? Naruto curiously thought to himself. A mere second later, and he was crash-tackled to the ground and turned around to find himself staring at the back of the exam proctor. Temari and Kankuro, I want you to gather the body of Gaara at all costs and take it back to Sunagakure. We can't let Konoha get their hands on it, Baki said as he was running damage control as he tried to make the best out of a bad situation. Hearing the orders from her sensei, Temari didn't even bother wiping the tears away from her eyes as anger fueled her motive. Futon, Kamaitashi no Jutsu, Wind Release, Sickle Weasel Jutsu! Temari shouted out as she unleashed her fan on Gemna and Naruto. Naruto immediately went through some seals. Katan Gakaki no Jutsu, Fire Release, Grand Fireball Jutsu, Naruto called out as he too used his jutsu. The affinity mismatch was what allowed Naruto to get away with using less chakra to defend himself and return the favor to the proctor, who was currently engaging in a fight with the sensei of his former opponent Gaara. Unfortunately for Naruto, Kankuro used his puppet to safely capture the body of Gaara and make sure that no one could damage it. It was clear to see that the two had good teamwork after years of time spent on the battlefield together. Once the body of Gaara was safely collected, the two looked at one another and nodded. They both headed to the exit of the stadium and planned on making sure that their brother got the proper burial he deserved. Naruto was about to chase after them until Gemna called out, "Kid! This is war! The exams are now over. I need you to make your way over to your teammates in the stands and then find your Jonin sensei and follow his orders. Now!" The special Jonin shouted out, to which Naruto didn't need to be told twice. He nodded and thanked the man for before heading over towards Asuma. He was keen to see the man that he hadn't seen in a long time, even if it was under not the best of circumstances. Chapter 10. Wanted to belong here. Naruto made his way back up to the competitor's box where his teammates were, and he didn't like what he saw. There in front of him was Ino in a battle with a Chunin, what it looked like from the sand village. Not wanting either of his best friends to get hurt, let alone worse, Naruto went up to the freshly minted Chunin from the side with great speed and slammed Bone's spike directly into the ribcage of his enemy. It was death on impact as the bone broke through the defenses and tore both lungs in the process. The body fell off of his hand and slumped to the ground. Thanks, Naruto. Also congratulations on winning the Chunin exams and defeating Gaara, Ino called out with a relieved sigh. Whilst she was confident that she could have taken him, it was nice to have some help from her teammate. She went in for a hug despite knowing about the bony situation that Naruto was dealing with at the moment. The Uzumaki stopped her right then and there though. We don't have time that right now, we have orders to get to Asuma-sensei and report for duty. By the way, where is Choji? Naruto questioned, which put a bit of a frown on the face of the blonde-haired girl before it got serious. Choji fell victim to the genjutsu and has been unconscious since then, Ino said as it was clear that the two were reverting back into their roles with Naruto being the leader. For fuck's sake! Naruto swore, which startled Ino. I thought that Choji was better than that. Guess we're just going to have to make it out of this and then get better as a team, Naruto said, more so to himself than to Ino. Alright Ino, I need you to go and wake up Choji. From there we will head over to Asuma-sensei who is protecting the nobles. Ino got to work, and right as Naruto finished saying this, he had to jump out of the way and dodge the incoming kunai. On instinct, Naruto turned around and fired off a round of finger bullets, one of which was luckily or unluckily able to hit the enemy sound ninja in the throat depending on which side you baraked for. Choji, with the help of Ino, was getting up despite the fact that he was still a little bit groggy for his unplanned nap time. The blonde-haired girl sent a pulse of chakra through the boy's system which seemed to jolt him awake. Oh, sorry guys, I can't believe that I fell for that genjutsu. I guess I wasn't paying attention. Knowing that Naruto was annoyed, Ino took it upon herself to play the peacekeeper role. She could see that now was not the time to get into any fights. It's okay, just make sure that it doesn't happen again, she replied, to which Choji nodded in affirmation. Naruto was not in the mood to mince words. He had a mission to complete, and it was his self-appointed duty to make sure that the mission got completed without any casualties. He desperately wanted to keep his 100% mission success rate intact. Choji and Ino fell in line and the trio formed the common triangle formation with Choji at the front. Whilst the quickest way would be to traverse across the field that the Chunin exams were held on, that was no man's land at the moment, and it was paramount to suicide as you could easily get attacked from any and all directions. That was why Naruto made the executive call that they would go the long way. Choji was even happy as they got to go through the outer arena of the Colosseum and pass through the food stalls. If it was anyone else other than Choji, Naruto would have had a go at them, but he knew that his teammate fought better with food in his stomach of the high-fat variety. It was something to do with his clan's special jutsus. 2 minutes later, the trio arrived at the top of the stairs to the noble box that housed the daimyo. Luckily for Team Asuma, they managed to avoid any form of battle along the way. Asuma-sensei, Naruto called out loudly, which got the attention of the bearded man. He grinned when he saw his 3 genin all there. We were told by Genma to come and report for duty under your orders. Right. Kurenai at the moment is creating a genjutsu to make it look as if there is no one here. What I need you 3 to do is to help me in waking up all the nobles. Make sure that you take your time, and Naruto, I want you to retract your bloodline at the moment as I don't want you to give the nobles heart attacks upon waking up. Ino giggled, but that was all that happened outside of taking their orders. Turning around, Asuma bent down onto one knee, gently proceeded to inject some chakra into the body of the fire daimyo. What is going on? Asuma-kun, is that you? Yes, Daimyo-sama, it's me. I will be brief, but at the moment, Konoha is under attack by a joint force from Sunagakure and Otogakure. Myself, another Jonin, and my genin students are all here to protect you and transport you to the Sarutobi clan compound where you will be safe until all of this is over. Oh, okay then, Asuma-kun. We will do as you ask, as our life is in your hands. What do you need us to do? At the moment, the other Jonin is creating a genjutsu to make everyone here invisible whilst my students are waking up the other people in your entourage. Now that you are conscious, can you please gather your belongings so that we can leave as soon as possible? The daimyo nodded. He had been around enough shinobi to know what a genjutsu was. Now that he was more alert, he was keen to see these students that Asuma was talking about. Much to his surprise, he didn't expect to see the child who had just won the Chunin exams. That was surprising and definitely something to think about in the future. He was very impressed with the performance that Naruto had displayed. The other two had also put on promising displays, although not quite as good as Naruto. Alright, is everyone accounted for? Asuma questioned, although he also made his own check. Right, I want Naruto and Choji at the front and Ino at the back with me. We will be using a square formation. Team Asuma all nodded. It played to each of their strengths. It allowed Naruto and Choji to use their ninjutsu without any chance of hitting the nobles, and it also provided Ino with the cover she needed for her clan jutsus as well as genjutsus. With the plan in motion, the group of shinobi and nobles set out on their A-ranked mission. Naruto and Choji led the group up the same way that Team Asuma came. They went up the stairs of the box that they were sitting in previously, and then headed down the stairs to the emergency exit. Much like the last time, it seemed that all the fighting was happening in the stands or outside. The hard part now was when they got to the big exit doors. They would now be walking open air where there could be a lot of crossfire. Choji, Naruto whispered in an attempt to get his friend's attention. What he had to say next was not something that he wanted the nobles to hear, as it would bring down their confidence, and that was simply not an option. I'm running out of chakra at the moment. Do you have any soldier pills? Choji merely grinned and handed over one of his homemade ones. Since it came from the Akimichi clan, it didn't actually taste all that bad, but the influx of energy was well worth the bad taste. Feeling refreshed, Naruto thanked his friend and opened the door slightly. As he looked out, it looked as if the coast was clear. Come on, it's safe to leave, Naruto said and started walking out of the building, although he made sure to hug the walls as he walked. The nobles quickly followed as they made their way out of the stadium and headed towards the Sarutobi clan compound. The problem was that the compound was 4 kilometers away on the edge of town. With the stadium near the center of town, it meant that they were in for a long journey. For the first 1 kilometer, everything was fine and dandy, as no one suspected the genjutsu was even there. That was until things changed. Asuma, I have guided you out of the danger area at the moment. I will go and find a place where I can be more useful, Kurenai stated, to which Asuma nodded and let the woman go, but not before staring at her ass. Right, kids, this just got tougher, although I know for certain that we are more than capable enough of successfully completing our mission. They didn't need to be told anymore, and they just kept going on mission. Now, with the added threat of being caught out and targeted, it only made their mission that much harder. 5 minutes later, and a group of what looked like to be a group of Jonin and Chunin came near the nobles. Given the Sunagekyo headbands, Asuma knew that this was not going to be a friendly visit. Kids, you go on ahead, I will hold off these guys to give you some space to make it to the safe house, Asuma shouted out, which left no room for argument. This was not the time to be playing games, as there were innocent lives at stake. Right, with Asuma-sensei holding off the enemies, everything will still be fine, Naruto stated in an attempt to run damage control. The last thing that he needed right now was for there to be panic. What he didn't notice was that the fire daimyo narrowed his eyes with scrutiny as he waited to see what Naruto would do next. He knew that Asuma wouldn't have put his life in the hands of the boy if he didn't trust him completely. He wanted to see what Asuma saw in the boy. Damn it! Now the ninja is gone, we're getting protected by kids! A nerve was struck with Naruto. The blonde-haired boy instantly turned around and faced whoever it was that had made that call. As it turned out, it was a girl about a year or two younger than himself. He really wasn't in the mood to deal with this. Okay, I don't give a shit who you are or who your parents are, but let me tell you this. Don't you ever question me when my whole job is to find the best way to ensure that you are safe. This is a war, for crying out loud. Don't you think that it would be best not to bite the hand that is trying to protect you, you brain-dead little girl? Good, silence. Just what I like to hear, and now that we have gotten that sorted out, let's head out, Naruto said in a tone which he hoped that killed any comeback. It didn't. That was my granddaughter, you know, was all what was said, but Naruto instantly knew who had said it. With testosterone and adrenaline running through his system, Naruto answered back in a way that he probably shouldn't have. Yeah, and I stand by what I said. At this present point in time, I am the most qualified to ensure that all of you survive. I don't care if you are the most powerful man in the world or not. That doesn't mean shit when there are people out there trying to kill you. I sure as hell don't need some civilian kid telling me, the person who just killed the Jinchuriki, for crying out loud, to tell me how to do my job. Now can we get back to doing what we are supposed to do, which is ensuring that you get to safety so that you can ram a giant pole up the ass of the Suna daimyo for sanctioning this fucking invasion. Naruto said before turning around and getting focused for the mission. He didn't say anything, but he was mightily impressed with the demeanor and attitude shown to him by the boy in front of him. There were very few people at all who had the balls to say something like that. That, in conjunction with the amount of skill that he had shown during the Chunin exams, made the man certain that Naruto would make an exemplary guardian ninja. Naruto was unaware of this as his mind started racing when Choji yelled out, "Incoming!" before going through some hand signs and slamming his hands on the ground. A wall of mud and came up and protected everyone from the incoming kunai and shuriken. Fear and panic was rife through the group. "Everybody stay calm. I have this under control," Naruto said in what was a commanding voice. "Oh, look at this, a Genin team are looking after these nobles. This is going to be easier than I thought," a man from Sunagakure stated, who had on a flak jacket signifying that he was at least a Chunin. He was beyond confident that he could kill the kids in front of him. That was until he saw a bunch of trees and some menacingly looking red eyes. He screamed. Turning around in horror to see what it was that had caused their team leader to scream, they found themselves staring at a beautiful woman holding a kunai deep into the neck of their superior. Ino made the situation her own by being the quickest to react. She threw her mind into the body of one of the other enemies, grabbed a kunai and stabbed that into the neck of the final shinobi. "Naruto!" Ino called out, to which the boy nodded. He picked out one of the kunai from his pocket and threw it at the body Ino was in. Right at the last second, the platinum blonde-haired girl released the jutsu and returned to her original body. "Hey Naruto, I know you like holding onto my body for dear life and all, but can you let me go? Now's not the time for that sort of thing. We can do it later if you're lucky," she said with an exaggerated wink on her face. Naruto, for his part, blushed badly. He was still coming to terms as seeing women as women, and it was not helping at all with his teammate being such a tease. It didn't help that she was actually a cool person outside of that. "Stop talking and do your damn job," Naruto called out as he tried to divert the attention away from him. It didn't work, as a few of the adult civilians chuckled at the expense that Naruto was put through. Thankfully for Naruto and the rest of Team Asuma, there were no more hiccups along the way in making it to the Sarutobi clan compound. "Okay, now all we have to do is wait until Asuma-sensei comes back, because these gates are only opened by blood seals and no one else here is a member of the Sarutobi clan. We just have to be patient," Naruto said, to which the group of nobles nodded. They were happy to be safe and away from the danger. Now that he had had some time and the adrenaline was wearing off, Naruto thought back on his previous conversation and realized that he may have been a bit harsh earlier. The blonde made his way over to the girl who had talked to before. "Hey, I just wanted to say that I am sorry for the way that I talked to you before. We were in a situation where negativity wouldn't have done anyone favors, but I shouldn't have snapped at you. Can we be friends?" Naruto questioned whilst holding his hand out to shake. The girl looked at Naruto and there was a slight tint of pink to her cheeks. "Yes, we can. My name is Akira Tokugawa," she stated as she extended her hand and shook Naruto's. Ino, who was briefly glancing at the two out of the corner of her eye, scowled momentarily before her focus returned to the task at hand of protecting the nobles. Here she was, she a noble as the clan heir of the Yamanaka clan, having to protect others. Oh well, she sighed as it was part of the job. After shaking the hand of his new friend, something which he was happy about, Naruto made his way over to the daimyo. "Excuse me, daimyo-sama, I'm sorry for the way that I acted before. I shouldn't have shouted at you despite my anger. You didn't do anything to deserve that," Naruto said as he hoped to mend the bad impression he had given off before. The impassive expression on the face of the daimyo made Naruto second-guess himself, as he was unsure if he had said something to piss off his big boss. "Do you stand by what you said to me before? If I asked you to say it now, would you still say the same thing?" the daimyo questioned whilst looking pointedly at Naruto. Put on the spot, Naruto was not sure what to say. He was conflicted. There was the answer that he wanted to say, but he wasn't sure if it was the right move to make politically. In the end, he knew he was asked a question and Naruto gave the most honest answer he could. "Probably yes. I would try and change the way that I worded it, but I was still the leader of the mission, and having comments like that thrown my way would only decrease our effectiveness as a team. I am sorry if this offends you," Naruto stated as he made sure to word his sentences carefully. He didn't want to say the wrong thing. Good Naruto, was it? I don't like people who are yes men. In my position, I need people who are able to give me the solid advice required to run a country. I can't have people agreeing with me even if it is the wrong decision. As he spoke, he saw the smile on Naruto's face and knew that it would make what he had to say next that much easier. Naruto, I would like for you to join me as one of my 10 guardian shinobi. You will essentially be a shinobi directly under my command, and you will live in my palace with me, my other family members, and the other guardians. You don't have to make the decision now, and I will wait until all of this is over to officially offer you the position and have you sign the contract. All I will say is that the daimyo offered, which stunned Naruto. He had no idea what to say or do right now, as he wasn't sure if he should take the offer. He needed to think it through and consult Asuma-sensei and Danzo-sensei. Turning around, Naruto looked at his teammates, and he was fairly confident he already knew the answer. It was then that Asuma arrived. So what did I miss? He questioned with a smirk on his face. Nothing really apart from Kurenai Taisha helping us for a bit, although I don't think that we really needed her help, Naruto confidently stated, which got the nod of approval from Asuma. Good, now how about we go inside the compound? Asuma questioned, although it was more of a rhetorical question. The Jonin quickly placed his hand over the seal and channeled some chakra into it. It took a few seconds, but the gears started grinding and the doors started opening. Feet started moving and the civilians made their way inside as Asuma guided them towards the largest house, which would be where they housed. When you considered the fact that Naruto had 3 fights, with one of them being a Jinchuriki, and then having to lead a group of very important diplomats safely whilst there was an invasion going on, it was no surprise at all that Naruto passed out fairly quickly after everything settled down and the adrenaline wore off. Upon waking up the next morning feeling both refreshed and hungry, Naruto decided to head down the stairs of his apartment and get some breakfast. Once he was done eating, the blonde-haired boy had a shower and got dressed. He wasn't entirely sure what he was supposed to be doing today, but he assumed with whatever went down the previous day would dictate his day. That was, until there was a knocking sound on the door. Curious as to whom it was, Naruto opened the door. Hi there, my name is Satoshi Hasegawa. I am a representative of the Konoha Dairy Company, and I would like to talk to you about an offer that we have for you to be our ambassador. We watched your performance during the exams, and we think that with bones needing calcium, something that dairy is high in, we can strike a deal that can benefit both of our parties. Am I allowed to come into your apartment, sir? The man questioned, to which Naruto was confused for a second before realizing what the man was asking. Now Naruto wasn't sure what was happening with the Chunin exams and if he was going to win any money, but if he wasn't, then at least, in his mind, he could use the fame that came with winning the exams and profit from it. The idea of a sponsorship was something that Naruto was not really familiar with, but he definitely liked the sounds of it in theory. What Naruto didn't notice was the look in the eyes of the man who he was letting into his house. Just from looking at the place, the man could tell that Naruto wasn't in a very good state financially, and that made him realize that he had a fair bit of power in the negotiations. The blonde felt slightly embarrassed with the way his apartment looked. He had the cheapest of chairs and he didn't even have a table. His reasoning and justification was that he never really had anyone over, that he was always out on missions and frankly had better things to do than furnish his crappy apartment. There were much more important things that he wanted to save for, like a deposit on his very own house. Now that he had something important like this happening in his house, Naruto felt very poor. If the civilian thought something of it, he didn't make a mention, but Naruto felt as if the person was silently judging him. Okay, so what would you want me to do for this sponsorship? What would you expect of me? Naruto questioned, as he wanted to get straight to the bottom of this. Today was a busy day after all. We would expect for you to have a photo shoot session with our photographer, which we will then use to display over our products. You will also have to endorse our products by saying a few quotes and how this particular product has made you become a better shinobi, and finally, you will not be allowed to have or even be seen near products of our competitors. That will result in immediate termination of the sponsorship, the man stated as he pointed it out to Naruto on a piece of paper holding the contract. Nodding as he understood all of this, the blonde-haired boy followed it up with another question. Now what sort of compensation would I be getting from this sponsorship? Naruto questioned, as he knew that whilst he was unfamiliar with situations like this, there were tricks to the trade with being a ninja. Well, my company would like to offer you a deal of $50,000 per year for 2 years. Despite the fact that he was a trained ninja and knew not to give away information, Naruto couldn't help the fact that his eyes bulged when he heard the number. That was more than what he was making now as a genin. Luckily Naruto had the sense of mind to negotiate a bit. Well, you are the first people who have contacted me, so I am not sure. Naruto said, although he purposefully left it open so that he could let the man offer him some more money. What about an additional signing on bonus? He asked in a desperate attempt to save the deal. If he could sign Naruto today before he had the chance to find out what other people might be willing to offer, it could save his company a lot of money. That could net him the raise that he had been hoping for. How much? The highest I would be able to offer you is $15,000 if you sign right here and now. If you refuse this, then we won't be able to offer you the same amount. Naruto wasn't too sure what to do with now that the pressure was on him for a decision. I'll sign the deal, Naruto stated, to which he was happy as his finances significantly grew, and the signing bonus would mean that Naruto was well off now. He didn't have to worry about taking missions daily to make sure that his account stayed positive. It also meant that if he saved up a bit more, he would be able to get a deposit for his own place, and not have to pay off someone else's mortgage. That definitely sounded like a good idea as far as he was concerned. Chapter 11. But something felt so wrong here. Naruto Uzumaki, you are hereby summoned to the Hokage's office, the ANBU member stated as Naruto opened the door. This was something that Naruto pretty much expected since he won the Chunin exams the day before, and this probably meant that he was going to get a promotion to the rank of Chunin and then get sent out on a whole bunch of missions. Dressed in a pair of blank ninja sandals, blank pants and a cheap, dark green t-shirt, Naruto headed to the center of town. Now that the fact that he had the Kagaya bloodline limit, the blonde-haired boy didn't see any point in wearing high-quality clothes, as he was no doubt going to put holes in them when using his Kekkei Genkai. Now that he also had full access to his bloodline, Naruto didn't need to use kunai and shuriken, as he could make his own. It was not as if he had ever been tasked with going on a political mission, although that might now change with the offer of the daimyo on the table. He still hadn't thought that through. On one hand, he could definitely see the benefits in going there. He would no doubt get real strong, as that was what Asuma-sensei did when he was younger. If he ever wanted to make a run at becoming the Hokage, then he knew that if he made a good impression on the daimyo, then he would have a much better shot at the title. And then there was the financial aspect of becoming a guardian ninja. The job definitely paid well, as you had a constant duty to protect very important people. Sure, there were a lot of positives to becoming one of the guardian ninjas, but there were a lot of things that he was going to have to give up if he wanted the job. The most important thing that he would have to give up were the friendships and bonds that he had created. In the short space of time, for Naruto, who was an orphan, making friends in Ino and Choji along with having Asuma-sensei and Danzo-sensei were pipe dreams mere months ago. Did he really want to give up the happiness that having friends gave? Sure, they might be friends when he got back to the village, but he knew that it would never really be the same. Before the Uzumaki Genin could ponder more on his future, Naruto realized that he had arrived at the Hokage's office. Hi there, I got summoned by the ANBU, Naruto stated to the receptionist, who nodded and allowed Naruto to walk into the room. Naruto was surprised with who he saw in the room. There was someone that he wasn't surprised to see, and that was Danzo-sensei, but the other person was someone that he didn't expect to see, and if he was honest, it was someone that he didn't particularly want to see. Despite the fact that he had matured a lot since joining Team Asuma, there were still a few things that Naruto didn't like, and he was very good at holding grudges. Good, you're here. Kakashi, I am giving you the chance to tell Naruto everything we previously discussed. It is up to you if you want to tell him it, but if you don't, I will get Asuma to do it when he gets back from his mission, Danzo stated in the low, monotone voice that oozed authority. This definitely confused Naruto when he heard this, as he wondered what it was that was so important that Kakashi had to tell him something. As far as he knew, the only connection that Kakashi and himself had with one another was the fact that he got failed by the man in the Genin exam. Naruto, I want you to meet me behind the Hokage monument, as there are a few things that we will be talking about today. Since it was coming from an elite jonin and got endorsed by one of his sensei, Naruto had no problem in following the orders. With a nod of the head, Kakashi used a shunshin and Naruto quickly followed. He would have liked to get a form of acknowledgement from Danzo about his performance at the Chunin exams, but given what he knew about the man, he shouldn't have been surprised at all, really. Once the two ninjas made their way to the secluded location, Kakashi used a jutsu taught to him by his sensei and set up a barrier. Naruto, I would just like to say that I am very impressed with the performance you gave at the finals. You should be very proud of yourself, Kakashi said with a nice smile. No thanks to you, Naruto muttered loud enough that the jonin heard the comment. The eye smile faded, as there were many things that Kakashi regretted in his life, and the most recent one was the fact that he passed up on the opportunity to train Naruto. Okay, fair enough, I deserve that one. Now before this turns into rag on Kakashi Day, there are more important matters that we need to discuss, the silver-haired man said as he used his serious tone of voice. This was something that Naruto noticed and got ready. He could potentially be going on a mission with the man in front of him, and he wanted all the details to prepare himself. The first thing that I am happy to announce, Naruto, is that you have officially been promoted to the rank of Chunin hereby immediately. Here is your well-deserved flak jacket. Kakashi as he handed Naruto the vest. Kakashi couldn't help but unleash a full-blown smile on his face when he saw the expression on the face of his sensei's son. It was the moments like this that made Kakashi deeply regret not taking Naruto on as a student. Thank you, I don't know what to say, Naruto replied as he tried on the jacket. It felt a bit loose, but Naruto knew that he could grow into it by gaining muscle/hitting a growth spurt. As he looked down at himself, Naruto couldn't help but think that the short t-shirt underneath looked a bit dorky, so he would need to go to Ino for some fashion advice as much as he hated to admit it. He hoped that the positives outweighed the negatives. Admittedly, he wished it was either Asuma or Danzo who gave it to him, as they had had more involvement in his development as a shinobi. Good, now that is out of the way, we can talk about the real reason why this was set up, Naruto-kun. Naruto was a bit put off by the fact that Kakashi was using the kun suffix on his name, but he didn't mention it. Kakashi was a lot stronger than him. Naruto only wanted people that he had established a relationship with to call him that, and Kakashi wasn't one of those people. Despite all of that, there was a sinking feeling in the stomach of Naruto that told him that what he was going to hear was something that was going to have a large impact on his life. He wasn't sure if he really wanted to hear it. What I am about to tell you is related to the main reason as to why I didn't become your sensei, Naruto. Now that Kakashi had said this, Naruto's attention was solely on the man in front of him. This was one of the questions that he had been waiting to find out the answer to for a long time. How do I word this? Kakashi said more to himself rather than Naruto. The blonde picked up that this is a sensitive topic. Naruto, I assume you don't know who your parents are, do you? The eyes of Naruto immediately widened. This was not the alleyway that he expected this conversation to go down. It was a question that Naruto had long given up hope in trying to find answers to, as every time he tried to find out more information, he would just get depressed with the lack of answers. The last time he tried to find out more, Naruto discovered the fact that his family was a clan in a completely different country. That would have been okay had it not been for the fact that it had all been massacred during the Second Great Shinobi War. Now that Kakashi was bringing up topics that he had tried to keep buried for such a long time, there was a little spark of hope inside the mind of the blonde-haired boy. No, okay, that makes things a little bit easier. When you were born, there was a decree made by the Sandaime Hokage to prevent anyone from finding out who your parents were. If word got out that your parents had a child, you would have assassins after your head for the rest of your life. With there being people out there who would be willing to kill you just to spite your parents, then there was a severe possibility that the world would be thrown into another great shinobi war. As Kakashi said this, Naruto couldn't help but gape. Just who were his parents that the world finding out about his birth could potentially send the world into a fourth great shinobi war? He didn't know of any famous Uzumaki from the bingo books or even history books outside of the Shodaime Hokage's wife. There was the fact that he felt better about his information gathering skills due to the fact that there was a law stating he couldn't find anything about his family, and it wasn't just him being shit. Naruto, I grew up and had the pleasure of knowing your parents. Your mother was a beautiful and not to mention strong woman called Kushina Uzumaki. She was the type of person who would punch first, ask questions later, but if you were on her good side, she was the kindest person you could ever ask to have as a friend. Here is a photo of her. Kakashi stated, to which Naruto took in absolutely every word the man in front of him said with open ears. When he got the photo in his hand, Naruto couldn't help but stare at the woman in the photo. Just like Kakashi had said before, she was beautiful. He had to admit he liked her eyes the most. Your father, on the other hand, was the better shinobi of the two, despite Kushina still being a jonin. That left a significantly smaller pool of people that could be his father. Naruto, there is no easy way for me to say this, so I will just come out and say it. Naruto, your father is none other than Minato Namikaze. When Naruto heard this, his head shot up and stared at Kakashi. That wasn't what he was expecting to hear at all. He didn't know how to feel, although he was saddened by the fact that his father was dead. What about my mother in all of this? Is she still alive? Naruto looked up at Kakashi with hope in his eyes, searching for any sign that his mother was still alive. He wanted to talk to her and ask her why she was not with him. Unfortunately, not Naruto. Your mother and father both died on the night that you were born because, as you know, you were born on the night of the Kyuubi attack. It was not your fault though if that went through your mind, Naruto-kun. There was something that happened that night that I cannot figure out, and the only people who do know are your parents. Curiosity filled the boy. What do you mean? What happened? I thought that the Kyuubi happened and that was it. A frown marred the face of Naruto as it seemed as if there was some foul play at hand. There was. Your mother was the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi, Naruto. Yet another bombshell was dropped on the boy. A wave of guilt passed through him as Naruto was instantly reminded of how he killed Gaara during the exams for the sole reason that he was a Jinchuriki. It made him feel like shit. The fact that Gaara was an unstable Jinchuriki who was hell-bent on leveling the village by unleashing the demon inside of him was missed by Naruto. The seal on the stomach of your mother became weak when she got pregnant with you, but with your father also being a seal master, there was no real issue with the seal. Someone must have come into the private room that was guarded by ANBU and did something to take your father's attention away from your mother. During that time, the person managed to break the seal and release the demon. Who was it? Naruto questioned with anger in his voice. He didn't like the idea of anyone killing his parents despite the fact that he had never met them before. That is the million-dollar question that we have been trying to find an answer to for the past 14 years. Kakashi stated out loud, although this was more to himself. Naruto was curious as to the wording of the statement. We? There was a nod from the Jonin. Yes, we. The other people who knew of your lineage all knew your parents, and want to know how what happened that night happened so that we can prevent it from happening again. Who else knew who my parents were? Kakashi paused for a moment. When you look at a picture of your father, you will notice that there is a lot of similarities between you in terms of appearance. A lot of people who were around when your parents were alive can tell whose child you are now that you have displayed how skilled you are. Jiraiya, as he was your father's sensei, Sandaime, Danzo, the other two counselors, most of the clan heads, Asuma and Guy. They are the people that I can list off the top of my head at the moment, but there are probably more that have figured it out. Naruto nodded when he heard this, but then a stray thought entered his mind. Hey, if you knew my father and you were his student, then why did you refuse to be my sensei? Is it because I remind you of him? Naruto questioned with a frown on his face. From the impression he got previously in this conversation, Kakashi wasn't actually that bad of a person. Maybe he was wrong? No! Kakashi emphasized in a rare display of emotion. That is far from the truth. The actual reason is because every single person that I ever became close to has died. I didn't want you to become yet another person on that long list. Immediately, Naruto's opinion of the man dramatically changed. Gone was the anger and hatred for preventing him from graduating to that of understanding, and if he was honest with himself, a little bit of pity. Admittedly, he didn't have much experience with losing people that you cared about since he never had any to begin with, but he wished he wouldn't act like what Kakashi was doing in this situation. Judging from the person you have become under Asuma's tutelage, I'd like to think that the decision had some positives, as I don't think that I could have trained you into becoming a better shinobi. I'm not much of a sensei if you haven't been able to tell. He didn't know what kind of shape his students were in before, but they didn't seem as if they had improved that much. Not a day goes by that I don't regret the decision for you to be on my team, but I hope we can put this behind us and become friends. Kakashi asked, which it didn't take Naruto all that long to make his decision. As this was going on with Naruto, there was a meeting going on. This wasn't just any meeting though, this was one of the most important in the history of Konoha. The room was full with very important people on the shinobi side and the daimyo along with his advisors. At the current point in time, they were busy in the process of discussing who it was that was going to become the next Hokage. So, Jiraiya, will you be willing to take the position of Hokage? The daimyo questioned as he looked at one of the men he respected the most. The stories that he had heard pained the man as a very skilled shinobi. He merely shook his head. I can't. Despite the fact that I don't even want to do this, I have a spy network that I must maintain, and I won't be able to do that effectively if I am located in one position. I would suggest Tsunade, however, as I think that if I am given time to go and locate her, I will be able to convince her to come back and become the Hokage that Konoha needs in this time of struggle. The daimyo seemed to ponder this for a moment, and it was at this point in time that Danzo knew that he had to act quickly and smartly. He couldn't let Konoha be led by Tsunade. She was not the type of person that was capable of leading any village, let alone the strongest of all on the entire continent, to prosperity. No! Tsunade is not capable of leading a village. She is very much a gambler who has the poorest history when it comes to financial management. She has lost over $10 million in the past 5 years. That is not a quality that we should look for in our village leader. This is not even including the fact that the woman is essentially a missing ninja as she deserted the village in its greatest time of need. Danzo stated, which drew the ire of Jiraiya. Sure, he knew that his teammate was not perfect and neither was he, but he knew that letting the village fall in the hands of Danzo was not good for the future. This wasn't just a sentiment that Jiraiya had. It was something that the clan heads in attendance, with those being Shikaku and Hayashi, agreeing with. The man was very proactive, and that led to situations where he created enemies from nothing. Tsunade was taught the same values and morals that have been passed down from generation to generation, starting from her grandfather, the Shodaime Hokage. Jiraiya rebutted, which received a nod from the daimyo. The two looked at each other, and it was clear as day that they knew what was going on. Whoever won the argument here to decide who the Hokage was going to be would get the final say-so. But those same morals taught by your sensei have led Konoha to lose its title as the strongest ninja village to both Kumo and Iwa at the moment. If Hiruzen had killed Orochimaru 10 years ago when he had the chance, then there never would have been an invasion. A more proactive approach would have saved the lives of many people here yesterday. An eye of Jiraiya twitched. And you think that your proactive approach, as you call it, will be so much better? I sure as hell don't remember Sensei creating anywhere near as many enemies in the world who want our blood as what you have done over the years. You might be an okay leader for the short term, but for the long term you will create too many enemies that will form an alliance and start another war against us, one which we will lose. Plus, I don't exactly remember seeing any of your rude shinobi out there on the battlefield protecting the people. It was this that caused for everyone to stare at Danzo. Danzo gritted his teeth and paused for a moment, and it was this that gave Jiraiya the belief that he was winning the argument. He knew of the opinion that many held of him, and he knew that it wasn't positive. The Jonin Council would never approve him either, so the veteran ninja decided to change his tune. I never said that I was running for the position of Hokage now, did I? The second that Danzo said this, it threw everyone in the room for a loop. This was news to everyone, as it was known that Danzo was someone who once vied for the position of Hokage back when the Sandaime was being selected. To hear him state that he was not going for the position now that Hiruzen was dead was definitely surprising. The position of Hokage is the most crucial appointment for the village. It is a position that needs stability, and one of the major reasons why Konoha has stayed at the top for a long period of time is the fact that we have not changed kages anywhere near as frequently as other hidden villages. Tsunade is too old to be a serious long-term candidate. We need someone younger than her to lead the village into prosperity. Danzo stated, to which Hayashi nodded as he agreed that someone younger would be better long-term, as the constant change in leadership would do no good. Then who would you suggest becomes the Hokage? Kakashi, he is the student of the late Minato Namikaze. The daimyo suggested, as he thought that Kakashi was a reputable man. This time it wasn't Danzo or Jiraiya who spoke up, it was Hayashi. No, whilst Kakashi is a very good shinobi, there is a lot to question his mentality. He wouldn't actively try and destroy Konoha, but is showing signs that he has lost a lot of determination and focus. If Inoichi was to run a psyche evaluation on him, I wouldn't be surprised to find out that he is suffering from depression. They are not the qualities a leader should have. As much as they didn't want to admit it, Jiraiya and Shikaku both agreed on the opinion voiced by the Hyuga clan leader. It is unfortunate that Minato is not with us anymore. He would be the perfect candidate, as he is the highly skilled shinobi for the job, who has the mindset required, and age isn't an issue. Whilst there are people from his generation who could lead the village if absolutely necessary, there is no one who stands out as a clear Hokage. Shikaku and Hayashi are the best candidates for that generation, but both have other duties to the village. The daimyo took this to heart. So are you suggesting that we go for someone in the same generation as Kakashi, like a Sumakun or that green guy? This time it was Shikaku, who had previously been quiet, spoke up. No. Whilst Guy definitely has the skills to be the Hokage, he is not entirely there mentally, yet that's probably the best way to put it. As for Asuma, he has the mentality to become the Hokage that Konoha needs, but he is simply not strong enough to strike fear into enemies and prevent wars with just his name. I wouldn't feel comfortable having either one of them as the Hokage, although if I had to choose one, I would go with Asuma. None of the people that read being mentioned are striking you with confidence. Is there someone else that has not been mentioned yet? The daimyo questioned, as he was getting a little bit annoyed at the fact that they were not coming to any conclusions. Now Danzo thought to himself, as he knew that there was never going to be a better time to ensure the safety of the village that he loved. This might be a controversial choice, but what about doing something completely left field? The newest generation has 3 ninjas in it that are each capable of reaching the same skill level as Sarutobi in his prime if given the right environment to learn. We as the elder ninjas would be able to guide them into becoming a Kage with the proper training and handling the political side of things until the person is capable of making decisions. Whilst this would leave us weaker in the short term, I can see this working in the long term if everything goes to plan and the ninja fills out every bit of potential he has. That is an awful lot of pressure to put on someone. What happens if the person in question doesn't ever eventuate into the Kage that Konoha needs? Will we not just be in an even worse position? Shikaka stated, which garnered many nods of agreement. Then we could have more than one candidate from the young generation. Sasuke Uchiha, Konohamaru Sarutobi and Naruto Uzumaki all show signs of having the potential to be what Konoha needs for a Kage. There would be an official group of adjudicators who would judge the performances of the shinobi in question, and whoever outperforms his peers will be the person who gets the title. As he was saying this, Danzo was confident that he already knew the winner of this outcome. Ooh, I did like Naruto when I met him. He looks like his father but certainly doesn't act like him. Yes, I like this idea, as none of the other candidates are capable or willing to take on the role. There will be a form of selection criteria to decide who the best candidate is for the position. This won't just be a combat situation between all 3 of them, as there will be a multitude of aspects that go into this report, such as mission reports, statements from superiors and subordinates on missions, academic testing and more. I believe that a 6-month time frame is an adequate period of time to decide. I will be back in Konoha then to see the results myself and crown a new Kage. Send my wishes on to each of the candidates. Jiraiya didn't know what to think of this new development, but he was saddened by the fact that he had no excuse to go and visit his Heim. What none of the people in the room realized was that underneath all of those bandages, there was a red eye spinning like crazy. Unaware of what was going on in the upper echelons of Konoha's hierarchy, Naruto found himself in a familiar place with familiar faces. It was the Team 7 training grounds, and he was there with Ino and Choji. Hey guys, how's it going? I hope everything went alright with the invasion and none of you guys got hurt. I mean, I passed out pretty early, haha. Naruto couldn't help but blush as he rubbed the back of his head. Ino merely brushed it off to the side. Ah, don't worry, Naruto. I mean, it is pretty hard to match the awesomeness of Choji and myself. There was a smirk on her face, but she didn't mean anything harmful by the comment. You wish jellyfish. Who even says that? Yeah, well, shut up. The grin that framed the face of Ino was one that Naruto couldn't help but stare at for a bit. He didn't want to sound like a bitch or anything, but he thought that the most attractive thing about her was her eyes. He quickly turned to Choji as he noticed that there was a bit of heat going to his cheeks. Thankfully for Naruto, Ino didn't notice this. Oh, congrats on the promotion to Chunin, Naruto. Choji said as he realized what it was that Naruto was wearing. When Choji said this, Ino also took note of Naruto's appearance and saw the eyesore that was Naruto. Yuck, what are you wearing? I thought that had some sort of fashion sense, but I guess that I was wrong. Sure, even he knew that what he was wearing now wasn't the best looking, but honestly, was the reaction from Ino really all that necessary? He didn't think so. Take off that t-shirt and just wear the flak jacket for now. You can at least look halfway decent until you get home and change into some proper clothes. Ignoring the bitchy tone that it came along with, Naruto did just that. He unzipped the Chunin vest that he was wearing and then took it off. This was fine for Ino, as it was what she expected. What she didn't expect was for Naruto to take off his shirt as well. It gave the blonde-haired girl the chance to have an elongated look at a boy in her age range that was fairly attractive. He was different from Sasuke, who had very little muscle on his body and used his chakra to great effect. Naruto instead had a large amount of muscle for someone his age, and the only person who had more than him in his age range was Choji. What was even more impressive was that because of the bloodline that Naruto had, it made his bones larger, and thus he required more muscle to stand out. Gone was the anorexic-looking boy, as Naruto now had developed enough muscle and a little bit more fat so that he was 3 clothing sizes bigger in the space of 6 months when you included his growth spurt. Ino couldn't help it as her pupils dilated, as she definitely liked what she saw. Her focus on her teammate was broken when Naruto zipped up the jacket, and it prevented Ino from staring at his abs. Yes, sucks shit, Ino. You tease me all the time, so it's finally good to get back at you. I'll have to do this more often. Naruto thought, as he was not as oblivious as he once was. So what did you guys call me out here for anyway? Naruto questioned as he decided to get down to the bottom of what they wanted to speak with him about. Sure, he didn't mind spending time with his teammates, but there were a lot of things on his mind at the moment. He still had to come to terms with the fact that he was the son of the late Yondaime Hokage. Well, we just wanted to talk to you about the offer you got to go and join the Guardian Ninja from the Fire Daimyo, Ino said with a cheerful grin on her face. Oh, they want to know if I have made a decision. The smile that was on his face, it dimmed slightly, not that Choji or Ino noticed it. It was a tough decision that would change his life forever. He had thought about it between the time from signing the sponsorship to meeting Kakashi, and both sides had heavy pros and cons, but he come to a decision. He had declined the offer. Yeah, I decided to turn it down because I want to be with my friends. Sure, moving to Tokyo and being the daimyo's guardian would be very beneficial for me and it would pay extremely well, but I realized that I don't want to lose what I have spent so much time building these past 6 months. I didn't really have any friends since my graduation, and spending time on Team Asuma with you guys has been the happiest times of my life. Naruto said with an awkward chuckle at the end, as he didn't like admitting his feelings because he thought it wasn't manly. The cheerful smile on the face of Ino and Choji immediately dropped when they heard this, and it was something that Naruto noticed. The eyes of the Yamanaka girl even started watering when she heard how Naruto felt about the team. She truly saw Naruto as a member of Team 10 and not just Shikamaru's replacement. What, we thought you were going to take the offer? Ino shouted as she let her emotions get the best of her when she replied in a slightly hostile tone of voice. Naruto heard this. Well, what should I have done, huh? Did you want me to take the position so you guys could get rid of me because I'm the replacement for Shikamaru and not actually your friend? When he said this, tears started falling down the face of Ino, and despite how angry he was, Naruto felt like the biggest piece of shit when he saw that he made Ino cry. Unfortunately, at this point in time, he had too much pride to be able to say he was sorry. No! You were never that! Don't you dare ever think of yourself as that! I won't allow it! Sure, Choji and I were dealing with his death at the beginning, but after we got to know you, we never saw you as that. To see the proud and strong girl that was Ino sniffling and wiping tears onto the sleeve of her shirt was something that would forever be etched into the memory of Naruto, and he vowed internally to never allow it to happen again. Choji was angry at the response that Naruto gave for a multitude of reasons. No! I don't see you as my teammate, Naruto! I see you as my friend. No one, not even Shikamaru, was able to make me as confident as what you have in my fighting abilities. Plus, you don't have to be a jerk about it. Choji replied as he saw what was happening to Ino. Well, I thought that you guys would like the fact that I chose to stay here with you guys. Fuck me for thinking that. Why aren't you too happy then that I am staying here? Naruto responded, although this time there was a little bit less heat to his words. Ino had to clear the lump in her throat before she spoke up. Because we got the same offer from the daimyo after you were passed out. Ino shouted out as she went back to crying when she finished saying this. There was a sense of foreboding in Naruto, as he had a feeling as to where this was going and he didn't like the sounds of it. No, no! Please tell me that you said no! Naruto desperately questioned, and he stared into the eyes of his two teammates. None of them could look him in the eyes and settled for staring at the ground. It was Choji who had the courage to reply. When you were asleep, the daimyo was impressed with us and offered each of us individually the opportunity to join the Guardian Ninjas. We spoke it over with our parents, and they agreed that taking this would be the best thing for our careers as shinobi. The moment that Naruto heard this, there was a stabbing pain in his chest. The news almost made him fall down onto the ground. How could you? Obviously, it seems we know who value friendships more. The reason why you got so angry at me is because you want to ease the guilt on your respective consciousness. How could you say those things? We honestly thought that you would be taking the position, so we wanted to join you. We know how much you love money, as you never stop talking about it. We were willing to leave our families to join you in the capital. Don't you know how that feels? Ino shouted back, not really thinking her words through. There was a hitch in both Choji's and Naruto's breath. Choji understood what was going through the mind of Naruto. He knew this wasn't going to be pretty. Of course I fucking wouldn't. I am fucking orphan if you haven't already realized. Fuck this. I hope you guys have the time of your lives over there in the capital whilst I am having fun with all of my friends. Oh wait, I don't have any because they are all leaving me. Naruto furiously shouted towards Ino and Choji before turning around to use a Katon Shunshin. As he did this, tears started to fall down his cheeks. During all of this, it never got out that both Choji and Ino had been promoted to the rank of Chunin. Chapter 12. So I prayed I could break away. It was safe to say that after the previous day, Naruto Uzumaki didn't get much sleep at all. So many things happened the day before, and it was one stressful situation after another for the blonde. It was this which caused Naruto to revert to his favorite pastime to cure stress. That was training, as it was the only thing that allowed Naruto to tune everything else out around him and focus on bettering himself. The iron would never lie to him, it wouldn't befriend him only to leave 6 months later. It was always there, and would always continue to be there. With it being an autumn morning, Naruto wanted to make the most of his training session and practice 2 different skills at once. This was why Naruto was in a pair of compression shorts which borderline could be called undies. The next step in fire manipulation that he knew of was to use Katon Chakra to manually regulate his body temperature. Obviously, the colder he was, the more challenging it was going to be, but Naruto was determined to make this work. The added motivation of having winter soon approaching was that if he got this down pat, he could go swimming all year round. This was an advanced skill and he was not expecting to get it down pat straight away, but that was what the training was for. He was going to build up a sweat to counterbalance his clothing situation or lack thereof. Deciding that he would go for a warm-up jog around the village, Naruto set off to hopefully clear his head. 5 kilometers into his jog and Naruto spotted the normally energetic man guy standing solemnly at a building. Naruto didn't think much of it as he kept jogging. Guy did, however, as he turned around when he felt the chakra of someone else nearby. When he turned around, he spotted none other than the winner of the Chunin exams. Eager to find out some more, Guy started jogging towards Naruto. Soon he caught up to the boy. "Yosh! Naruto-kun, you displayed a youthful performance during the Chunin exams," Guy said in usual Guy fashion, which was to say it loud and proud. Naruto didn't know what to say. "You're the sensei of Lee, Tenten and Niji, correct?" Naruto questioned. He regretted the question as he noticed a look of pain that went over the man's face when he said this. It was then that Naruto remembered the fact that Lee had the very bad injury at the hands of Gaara. "Yes, Naruto-kun, I am the mighty green beast Might Guy." As he said this, he held up his hand and posed with the biggest smile you could imagine. "So have you received your promotion yet, Naruto-kun?" This threw the blonde-haired boy for a loop. How did Guy know about his promotion, he wondered. Seeing the look on the face of Naruto, Guy elaborated. "Yash, Naruto-kun! A performance like that during the Chunin exams is one that demands a promotion." A grin appeared on the face of Naruto as he heard this. It was nice to get recognition from your superiors on your performances. It was a good gauge for Naruto in his quest to become an insanely strong shinobi. "Oh, thank you, yeah, I did get my promotion yesterday from Kakashi since Asuma-sensei was out on a mission." A look of understanding appeared on the face of Guy as he heard this. He hoped the two of them patched up their differences as he could see that Naruto harbored some grudges about the Genin exam. "Did you patch up your disagreements with Kakashi-san, Naruto-kun?" Naruto looked at Guy for a moment. Given the fact that the man said earlier during the preliminaries that Kakashi and himself were eternal rivals and knew about the exam, Guy would know a whole lot more. "Yes, Kakashi told me why he didn't take me on as a student when I passed the exam. After that we sorted out everything." Guy looked at Naruto for a little bit, which made him a bit uncomfortable. "I see. I wasn't sure now that the Sandaime was dead whether or not that rule would be overturned," Guy said, purposefully leaving him an escape just in case Naruto didn't know what he was talking about. "Kakashi told me yesterday that you knew." "Yes, it was never my place to say, as I had no connection to you other than the fact that I am friends with Kakashi. By the way, Naruto, I must admit I am very surprised that you have the Kagaya bloodline limit. I thought that it was extinct to the world," Guy said, still in a tone of voice that conveyed his seriousness. It was different to see compared to his normal state. "Yeah, I have no idea how I got it, although I am definitely not complaining. It was what allowed me to kill Gaara, as I think the surprise effect definitely helped." Guy's breath itched. "Yes, Naruto. Whilst I know killing is bad and should only be used as a last resort measure, seeing the person who injured Lee so badly being prevented from hurting anyone else does fill me with satisfaction," Guy stated slightly softer than normal. The second that Lee was mentioned, Naruto felt bad for the person who he used to call a friend. He guessed he couldn't really call himself that as he hadn't visited him despite the fact that he was in hospital for the past month. Naruto made a mental note to go and see Lee after he was done with his training. So how's Lee doing? I never got to find out what was wrong with him medically speaking, of course. Guy paused for a moment as this was no doubt tough for him to talk about. They say that he might never be able to be a shinobi again because the damage. When Naruto heard this, he felt even worse. There are grains of sand from the attack that crushed part of his body made it so that bone fragments were embedded into his spinal column. It's a shame that Lee doesn't have my bloodline because instead of having to fix his existing skeletal structure, he could just grow a new one. The second that Naruto said that, it was as if a light bulb went off inside the head of Guy. There was a new avenue that was now open to the doctors that were previously shut off. Maybe with the use of Naruto's bloodline, they could resolve the issues that Lee had. Yash, Naruto-kun. I have just thought that maybe you and your bloodline can help Lee get better. We would have to go and speak to the medical ninjas and find out, but we might be able to use your abilities to save Lee. Naruto didn't think twice. He would do whatever it took if it meant that Lee would be back to normal. Yes, I would be happy to help out however I can. Guy stopped, which caused Naruto to stop. Guy then surprised Naruto by bowing to him. Thank you, Naruto-kun. You have no idea how much this means to me. If there is anything else that I can do to help, let me know. The newly minted Chunin felt weird with the elite Jonin bowing to him. You don't have to do that, Guy. Actually, now that you mention it, my taijutsu doesn't have a definitive taijutsu style as it is, but Asuma and Danzo-sensei have tried to help out as much as they could. It would be nice to get training from someone who specializes in taijutsu. Faster than he could even follow, Guy was standing up straight from bowing. Yash, Naruto-kun. I would be happy to help you in your taijutsu training. I was even going to request a spar with you as I have never met a dead bone pulse user. Guy said in usual Guy fashion before turning back into serious mode. Although Naruto, I am not sure what your relationship is with Danzo and I won't tell you how to live your life, but be careful around him. This was something that intrigued Naruto as up until now, he had never heard anything bad about Danzo. It would be nice to have another opinion on the man. What do you mean? As far as he was concerned, Danzo was a solid person. Sure, he was strict, but that didn't mean you were a bad person. As I said before, Naruto-kun, I will let you make your own decisions on him, but back in the day, Sandaime-sama was known as the light and Danzo was known as the bad. He has had his hand in some shady dealings in the past. Naruto nodded when he heard this. Thanks for that. For now he has done nothing bad to me, but I will keep an eye out. As Naruto finished speaking, bones started coming out of his body in every different direction. Now let's get this fight underway, Naruto said with a grin on his face. Sasuke Uchiha walked into the Hokage's office wondering why it was that he had been called in here. What was even more confusing was the fact that there were quite a few other people in the room. He kind of had an inkling as to what this was about, and that was increased when he saw that Naruto kid along with Konohamaru. Admittedly, he wasn't sure if he had done enough to earn the promotion. He hoped that he got lucky though. As I am sure you will all find out in the future, time is critical, so I will not mince my words here. Asuma can fill in the rest of the blanks after I have said what I have to say. The three nodded at this. Right, due to military law in action, jonin such as myself are able to promote promising ninjas to the rank of Chunin. Due to the actions of Sunigakure and Otogakure, Konoha needs as many ninjas as possible. You three in particular have shown that you have the potential to lead on missions and you have the skills to back that up. Let me make this clear though, if we were not at war, some of you would not be getting these promotions. It stung a little bit for Konohamaru and Sasuke when they heard this, as they were not earning their promotions by merit but by chance circumstances. For Naruto, he didn't care as he already had his promotion. He knew that he earned it. Like with every shinobi until the day that they die, there are skill sets that you need to work on if you want to be able to progress past this point. You will be going on tougher missions, but very rarely will you be leading missions as you are still fresh from your promotion. Danzo stated, to which they all nodded. It was all they could really ask for at this point. With that being said, Kakashi, hand your students their flak jackets. Konohamaru let out a cry of jubilation when this was stated, as he was finally one step closer to his dream of becoming the Hokage. Boy, was he in for a rude surprise when he found out why he was really here. Sasuke was a bit more observant than his teammate. Not that I am complaining, but why didn't Naruto get a vest? I mean, he did win the Chunin exams after all. Sasuke wasn't sure if he liked the guy or not. Whilst he was defeated by not just Naruto but also someone around his age, it meant that there was someone that he could now compare himself to and spar with, as he believed himself to be stronger than Konohamaru. It would help him on his quest to kill that man. It was Asuma who spoke up this time. Naruto already received his promotion to Chunin a couple of days ago. He is here because Danzo-sama has something else to say to you three Genin. Yes, I will now be getting to the real reason as to why I have called you three here. During one of the discussions to see who would become the next Hokage with the Fire Daimyo, it was decided that there was no one that was really suitable for the permission and those that didn't want it. What? How could anyone not want to become the Hokage? Konohamaru loudly stated with confusion in his voice. Whilst he did share the same sentiment as the boy, he didn't like insubordination to say the least, and now was not the time and place. Silence was all that Danzo needed to say. It might have helped mentioning that he used killing intent along with the words. Needless to say, Konoha was in a bit of a bind, as we need a military leader for the future, as there potentially could be the start of the Fourth Great Shinobi War given the invasion and our perceived weakness. It is why Jiraiya is here in the village at the moment and not out elsewhere, Danzo stated. He didn't like long-winded speeches, but since what he was saying now would shape the future of Konoha, he needed to make sure that everything he said was pinpoint accurate. So Danzo-sensei, not that I don't mind listening to this, but what does this have to do with us? Danzo-sensei? Maybe if I ask this man here to train me I can finally get the power to defeat Itachi. Sasuke thought in his head as picked up on his new rival. He wasn't sure how strong Naruto was before he met this man, but surely Danzo would make him progress faster than what he already was. After a suggestion, the Fire Daimyo was willing to try something new. When Danzo said this, the eyes of all three Chunin in front of him lit up and paid keen attention to what he had to say. The three of you are listed as the current batch of this generation who have the most potential to become worthy of being a Hokage. The council along with the daimyo have officially decided to allow the three of you to compete for the position of Hokage. Danzo paused for a moment to let this sink in. What do you mean? Konohamaru passionately demanded information, as it was his lifelong goal to become the Hokage. There was never a time beforehand where he had paid more attention. Konohamaru was hanging off every word that Danzo said. There will be a 6-month trial period where the three of you will get training in the various skill sets that are required to become the Hokage. At the end of the 6-month period, you will each be judged in various ways, and the person who performs the best will be given the title. Of course, with this being such a crucial position, if none of you meet the high standard that will be set, then despite winning the competition, you will not become the Hokage. The eyes of all three Chunin went steely with determination, each with their own reasons. Sasuke knew that all of the Hokages were at the same level as Itachi, and if he was able to get the same training as someone like, say, Minato Namikaze. Ever since he was born, Konohamaru decided that it wanted to be just like his grandfather, and to do that, he would need to become the Hokage. If one of the others got the position, then he knew that he would be waiting a long time for the job to become available again. Naruto, on the other hand, was slightly different. He wasn't sure whether or not he actually wanted the position of Hokage. He didn't specifically know what the position entailed, but he knew that he wanted to train and get strong. As far as he was concerned, training to become the Hokage was going to be tough, and hopefully his skills would increase dramatically. At least by the end of the 6 months, if he didn't want it, he could turn it down. Now, I have to go to a meeting, but Kakashi and Asuma here will explain to you the finer details of this, Danzo said before he got up out of the chair and walked over to the door. There will be some form of pre-planned training down the track, but as of this current moment nothing has been set up. This means that you will need to make arrangements individually as to progressing your training. Now that you are Chunin, you don't have exclusive senseis. If either Konohamaru or Sasuke want help from me, I will be happy to provide it, but I won't divulge any information on what the other candidates are doing. During this time period, each of you will be expected to go on missions, but because of the nature of your other work, you will be going on less missions than your counterparts to give you time to train for the future. You are free to do whatever you feel will aid you the most outside of sabotaging your competitors. When Asuma finished, Kakashi continued on. Yes, you three will be going on missions which are more difficult than what your average newly minted Chunin will be going on, and you won't be going on them with the safety of myself, or in your case Naruto, Asuma, there to bail you out of trouble. Another thing is that you will be judged over all of the 6 months, and not just the final exams. You will not be told when you are getting judged, and you will not be told how you are getting judged, thus meaning you will have to put your best foot forward on every single occasion. It was a lot to take in for the Chunins, but they knew that they had to do it or otherwise the others would get an advantage in the competition, and that was not acceptable. Finally, this is all an S-class secret, so that if you mention any of this to anyone other than those present inside this room, you will be immediately executed, no question. This is a matter of village security, as other villages could attack us during this transitional time frame. We want to give off the impression that we are stronger than what we actually are. A day after digesting all of the information on how he was now in the running to become the future Hokage of Konoha, Naruto found himself in the torture and interrogation labs. Thankfully for his sanity, he didn't have to meet with the Noichi. Instead, he got to meet with the Biki. After explaining to the man his whole predicament with Rock Lee and thus getting told by doctors that he would need some practice creating new bones with his bloodline and other people, Naruto decided that there was only one place he could go. He would much rather practice on people who are prisoners of war than practice on innocent civilians. After 3 hours later, Naruto had finally decided that he had spent enough time at the labs and decided that he needed a change of pace. There was only so much time that you could spend studying without wanting to neck yourself. On his way out, Naruto decided that he would treat himself to some food. Sure, he could make himself something, but that didn't taste as good as when someone else made it for him. This was the reason why Naruto found himself at the barbecue restaurant that his former team frequented so much. Whilst the meal was soured by the fact that he was there by himself, he had to admit that the place did know how to cook quality meat. When he decided to exit the place, Naruto was met by someone he did not expect to see. It wasn't as if this meeting was not welcomed, he was just surprised. Standing there in front of him was none other than one of his rivals for the position of Hokage. "Are you busy?" Sasuke questioned in a blunt as always fashion. "No, why?" Naruto responded back, preparing himself just in case he was being asked to go on a mission. It seemed as if Sasuke had trouble forming what he wanted to say next, as there was an elongated pause from the raven-haired ninja. "I want to spar with you." The second that he said this, Naruto looked weirdly back at him. It made Sasuke elaborate rather quickly. "It is hard to find people who are in my age bracket that are decent shinobi." The fact that Sasuke lost to Naruto went unspoken. Naruto merely raised an eyebrow. He internally chuckled at the wording that Sasuke used. Now, though that he was freely able to use his bloodline, he wanted a bit more practice in using it in combat situations. That and the fact that he had some energy to burn meant that he was down for this. "Sure, so where do you want to do this? Training Ground 7? Naruto merely nodded at that. "How are you able to use your fire jutsus so much better than me?" Sasuke raged more at himself as he knew that the Grand Fireball was a jutsu that was a famous jutsu of the Uchiha clan, and yet, here Naruto was using it much better than he was. The problem with this was the fact that he had learned that Naruto only started learning fire ninjutsus about a year ago, whilst he had been practicing for so long. "It looks like you're forcing it. When I use a jutsu, it feels like it's natural. It looks like you pause for half a second just before you use the jutsu. Is fire even your dominant element?" Naruto questioned as he dodged the incoming punch from Sasuke. He immediately countered with a sweeping leg kick that Sasuke jumped over. "What do you mean dominant element?" Sasuke grunted as he didn't lose focus on the fight. With Naruto using his bloodline limit, it made the fight that much harder. That was exactly what Sasuke wanted though, as he wanted the toughest challenge to prepare himself for Itachi. "Oh, well, that explains it. Everyone has a natural affinity for a certain element. If you are, say, a fire user, water jutsus will be hard for you. I bet your problem is that you're using jutsus not from your elemental tree," Naruto replied as he managed to cut Sasuke on the arm with one of his bones. "TCH figures," Sasuke said, more so to himself than Naruto. He didn't like it when he wasn't in the know. It was just like not being strong enough for Sasuke. He felt as this was a failure on his behalf. The fact that if he had paid attention in class he would have known this went unspoken. "Well, how would I go about finding out what my affinity is?" Sasuke grunted as he managed to get his third punch on Naruto. "Well, luckily for you, Sasuke-kun, that is where I come in." As this was said, there was a shunshin right in the middle of the pair of Chunin fighting. Kakashi blocked both attacks and stood between them. Naruto and Sasuke shared the same thought. "Show off. How long have you been here?" Naruto asked. He thought the two of them were alone. A grin formed under the mask of Kakashi. "I've been watching you two since you left that restaurant." The deadpan looks Naruto and Sasuke gave him made Kakashi continue to speak. "Luckily for you two, Sasuke, here is this." At this point in time, Kakashi pulled out a piece of paper from his pocket and gave it over to the boy. The raven-haired Uchiha looked at curiously. He didn't know what he was supposed to do with it. Channel some chakra into it. Depending on the reaction to your chakra, the paper will tell me what chakra nature you have. Why didn't we do this earlier? I could have been getting stronger quicker. When Sasuke said this, Naruto couldn't help but stare at Sasuke's lack of manners. Even he thought it was bad, and this was coming from someone who hadn't had any parents to teach him what manners are. Kakashi, I smiled, but if you knew him for long enough, you would have been able to tell that he was annoyed. I thought that the oh-so-precious Uchiha would already know what his affinity was, given that he is such a prodigy. Just channel some chakra into the paper. As per the hunch that Kakashi had, Sasuke's piece of paper turned into a tight little ball. So what does this mean? Sasuke questioned as he was internally cursing at himself for the mere fact that he didn't pay attention in class. If he knew this, then he would be able to go home and practice his newfound skill set. Well, it means that you get to learn new jutsu. As he said this, Kakashi created a shadow clone. Sasuke, I want you to go with my clone and I will teach you a couple of lightning jutsus. The Uchiha didn't care that much about the fact that his fight with Naruto got interrupted. He wanted to learn new jutsus and bridge the gap with Itachi. The fact that Naruto was winning was left unsaid. Now that he is away, Naruto, there is something that I want to teach you which I didn't want Sasuke watching. This is a jutsu which your father created, and for someone who is a close-range fighter such as yourself, I think this will be a jutsu that you will make the most out of. Ever since learning who his parents were, Naruto spent most of his time with Kakashi learning more and more about his parents. This definitely had the attention of Naruto, as he wanted to have a link to his father in more than just appearance and mannerisms. It was here that Kakashi threw a balloon at Naruto. This confused the hell out of the blonde. That there is the first step to mastering the Rasengan. Even if he wasn't the son of the fourth Hokage, Naruto would have known the name of the jutsu. Alongside the Hiraishin, it was folklore in Konoha, and it was always a question in a game of 20 questions. There are 3 steps to completing the Rasengan, but we won't bother with them until you have learned the previous step. One thing you might not actually realize though is that the Rasengan itself is an incomplete jutsu. Indeed, when this was said to Naruto, the blonde-haired boy raised an eyebrow. Minato-sensei developed the Rasengan into the pinnacle of natureless chakra manipulation. He had the intent to then combine it with his affinity, but sadly he never got the chance. He hoped that one day, you would be able to complete the jutsu for him by adding in your affinity to it. A grin appeared on the face of Naruto when he heard this, as he couldn't help but swell with pride. To know that his parents had that much unconditional faith in him was surprising, but definitely not something that he minded at all. Chapter 13. I'll spread my wings. Having just completed his B-rank mission to T-Country, it was decided on the mission that the mission report would be done by the newest member of the team, which just so happened to be none other than Naruto. So there he was, standing in front of Danzo giving the mission report and how he managed to kill 2 bandits whilst his teammates managed to kill a Chunin. The escort of the merchant and his goods to the south went without any casualties. I am pleased to hear that the mission was successful, Naruto-kun. Now before you go, there is one more thing that I want to discuss with you. When Danzo said this, Naruto got nervous. From what he had heard, in situations like this, there was nothing good that his sensei would have to say. Despite this, Naruto had enough pride to take whatever it was and not back down. Due to the fragile alliance that is still being held in place with Suna for their invasion, we have received some items from their village which will be of great benefit. Danzo stated as his lone eye stared at Naruto. The blonde-haired Chunin had to admit, he was curious to see what his sensei looked like underneath all of those bandages. Naruto paused for a second. Obviously, whatever this benefit was, it had something to do with himself. Asking about whatever it was would no doubt make Danzo look down on him for asking a stupid question. It was clear to Naruto that Danzo was getting there. Sorry for asking, but why are we still allied with Suna? I mean, they broke their alliance with us by attempting to invade Konoha. The interim Hokage was actually glad Naruto was asking questions like this. The whole reason why he had set up the selection criteria for the Hokage position was so that Naruto could be manipulated into the perfect Hokage that Konoha needed. Suna is weak at the moment, too weak. If Konoha was to prevent the alliance from happening, then Kumo and Iwa would take advantage of the situation. They would take out Suna and then have the positional advantage to launch attacks onto Fire Country from 2 separate directions. We cannot allow this to happen. Once Konoha is strong enough to fend off advances from Kumogakure and Iwagakure, then we will void the agreement from Sunigakure. Seeing that Naruto comprehended this, Danzo continued on. As part of the agreement, Konoha demanded the summoning contract which was used by the Shodaime Kazekage. They were unwilling of course, but because of their terrible bargaining position, they had no choice but to hand over the summoning scroll. As Danzo said this, he rolled out the large contract that was on the table in front of him. Naruto looked at it with awe as he had never seen anything like it before. Patience was something that Danzo wasn't the best with. Sign the contract in blood. There is work that needs to be done, and you can practice this in your own time. Naruto was a bit annoyed with the way he was brushed off. Pushing that to the side for a bit, Naruto looked at the contract and noticed how said which hand seals to use. After committing that to memory, Naruto signed the contract in blood. Thank you, Danzo-sensei. I know how much summoning contracts can enhance a ninja, so I promise that I will make the most of this. See to it that you do. Danzo replied with his bland tone of voice, which Naruto took the cue to leave the room. From the knowledge that he had garnered during his time spent at the academy, Naruto knew that the summoning jutsu took a whole load of chakra. This meant that he actually had to wait until the next day until he had recovered enough so that he could use the jutsu. Now that he was outside the borders of Konoha in one of the training grounds, Naruto prepared himself. The boy went through the hand seals and channeled all of the chakra in his body bar a small amount through the jutsu. It was the first time that he had used so much chakra in one go, and it left the Chunin with sweat dripping down his brow and gasping for air. Due to the nature of the jutsu, Naruto watched as there was a large plume of smoke that was quickly replaced by the largest sand cloud he had seen, and that was considering the fact that he had fought Gaara. What appeared when this sand went away was by far the biggest scorpion that he had ever seen. In front of him was a hexapoidal beige/brown scorpion that had a large green gem right in the center of its forehead. That wasn't the part that instilled fear into Naruto though. It was the glowing green pincers and stinger. He didn't know what they did, and he didn't exactly want to find out. The snakes that he saw out of the corner of his eye when he was escorting the daimyo were about 2/3 the size of this scorpion. This was so much so that he even voiced his opinion. Whoa! The giant scorpion looked down at the boy who had just summoned him. He had to admit, given the age of what the shinobi looked, it was pretty impressive that he was able to summon the boss and have some chakra left over. Despite this, he could help but chuckle at the response given. You were expecting Sandy Claws? In spite of the fact that he knew he was in a serious situation, Naruto chuckled. Those claws that this scorpion had were just over triple the height of Naruto. It took a few seconds for Naruto to regain his composure, as he was still marveling at the sight of the scorpion in front of him. Haha, I was given a summoning contract to sign, but I was never told what animal summon it was tied to. I guess I was just surprised and not sure what to expect, Naruto replied. The scorpion seemed to accept this for a moment, and then narrowed his gaze down onto the boy. This is not Sunigakure. Tell me, where am I and how did you manage to sign this contract? Not wanting to anger this giant in front of him, Naruto spoke. You are on the outskirts of Konoha. There was a major skirmish between the villages between Konoha and Sunigakure. This started by an invasion from Suna, and since Konoha won, one of the demands that was made was to hand over your summoning contract. The leader in charge saw fit for me to sign the contract. I see. Just because you have signed the contract doesn't mean we will acknowledge you, let alone fight alongside you in battle. You must pass a series of tests, Naruto. With that said, all sign of the scorpion and Naruto disappeared in a cloud of smoke. After packing some food, Naruto headed out to the training ground 7. It was here that he had been spending a fair amount of his time. With Asuma constantly going out on missions and his 2 teammates out on missions, Naruto didn't have a lot of people that he could socialize with on a consistent basis. It was here where Sasuke, of all people now that he had gotten to know him, offered up a solution. The solution was that the 2 of them would train together. Of course, Naruto knew that there was the very real chance that Sasuke was solely using this for spying on him in the quest to become the Hokage. To be honest, this didn't really bother Naruto all that much. Originally, the blonde Chunin was used to long bouts of solitude, but given the last few months, he had gotten used to having the company of people that he could talk to. Being an orphan and everything that came with that, Naruto didn't really have anyone else that he could talk to, so he didn't mind if Sasuke was using him as a measuring stick in his quest to kill Itachi. It gave the blonde the chance to spend time with some people his own age, and that was worth its weight in gold. A week into the arrangement that both Naruto and Sasuke had set up, in which they would arrive at the training ground at 6 a.m., Konohamaru found out about the arrangement. He was not too pleased to say the least, as he was determined to not let any of his rivals gain an advantage over him. After all, his quest was to become the Hokage. Konohamaru self-approved the invite that he had given himself to attend this training session. It was then that he was quite disappointed. He didn't know what to expect, but he expected there to be ruthless sparring day in and day out. It would be a much different type of workout compared to the one that he was currently used to. That in comparison was severely mind-numbing, as Ebisu-sensei was forcing Konohamaru to go through all of the basics that he had missed out on before. Of course, he knew that this was a must. When his grandfather was alive, Hiruzen specifically told Konohamaru that the month-long training that they would be doing would focus on getting him as strong as possible, as quickly as possible. Now that the 1-month period before the Chunin exams was gone, he had to abide by his promise, and if there was one thing that Konohamaru prided himself on, it was his conviction. If there was something that he said that he would do, then he would do it. That was why Konohamaru was training the basics, which he didn't like all that much, to say the least. He wanted to fight, and given that Naruto and Sasuke were two people his age that were strong, he couldn't think of any better people to train together with now that his grandfather had unfortunately passed away. After having finished warming up as three, they each decided to move over to separate parts of the training field, as they wanted to work on their ninjutsu without the others watching. It was at this time that the group of foreign shinobi struck. Kidamura led his team towards Sasuke, and before the boy knew it, there were wires wrapping around his body. Well, at least that was what they thought. Ever since a month ago, when he had started fighting Naruto on a consistent basis, Sasuke knew that he had to come up with another way to win his fights, as going into a taijutsu spar against Naruto was tantamount to suicide. His bloodline was just far too good at close combat. He needed to come up with another way of defeating Naruto, and that was through genjutsu. With Konohamaru being the premier ninjutsu user out of the three, given his ridiculous chakra reserves, and Naruto being the taijutsu specialist, Sasuke was only left with genjutsu out of the main three. The fact that Itachi was extremely profound in this area didn't hurt either, as it meant that it would prepare Sasuke for what he knew he would be up against one day. "You're a tough character, I like that. I can see why Orochimaru is interested in you," the leader of the team stated as he gave his subordinates the command to attack. Fighting one-on-one would be more than fine for Sasuke, but that was not what he was doing at the moment. Hell, 2-on-1 would be manageable, but 4-on-1, well, that was definitely a new experience, to say the least. The fat one and the two-headed guy were easy enough to deal with for Sasuke, thanks to the fact that every day this past month, he had been sparring with Naruto. Sure, he was on the defensive, but the speed of the fight was something that he could fight at without having to use chakra to increase his speed. Likewise, Sasuke was fairly proficient in combating against the genjutsu that were being thrown against him from the red-haired girl, thanks to his recent training and bloodline limit. The person that was giving him trouble was the spider freak with 6 arms who talked as if everything was a video game. Fighting against 4 people at the same time was definitely a first for Sasuke, and he was having trouble multitasking despite having the advantage of the Sharingan. "If you stay in this shitty village here, you will always be weak like everyone else. You will never become powerful. Playing games with your family and friends will only make you rot. Come with us." This time a different person spoke. It was the red-haired girl. "If you do, Orochimaru-sama will give you the power that you seek." As Tayuya said this, the curse seal on the neck of Sasuke started to flare up. It was now Sakan's turn to speak up, giving a dose of reality to the Uchiha Chunin. "You will lose all form free will. Forever. Instead of the cursed seal giving you power, it merely transforms you into Orochimaru's slave. To gain something, you must be willing to sacrifice something else. What is your purpose in life? Will you just forget Itachi and continue to live in this simple village where you and your loser friends can gather and cry on each other's shoulders? Don't forget your purpose. This village will only become the shackles that bind you. It's best to just cut those worthless connections, and in doing so, you will be able to obtain a much greater power. I think you gay cunts have sprouted enough shit. To think that if Orochimaru was that interested in you, Sasuke, he would have come here himself instead of getting these pieces of trash to come and do it for him. Obviously he doesn't think that highly of you," Naruto said loudly, which made the 4-sound ninja instantly turn their heads around. They wanted this to be a private meeting and thought that they had secured that. Obviously that was not the case. "Yeah. I bet you pathetic pussies are no match for me and Naruto. We will show you that Konoha is much stronger than your insignificant shitstain of a village." Konohamaru shouted in agreement as he was appalled that Sasuke was not already shouting out his commitment to stay in the village. Let it be known that Konohamaru had some grudges to settle against the Sound Village ever since the death of his grandfather. Sasuke turned around and saw the two closest to what one would call friends. They were really the only people that he spent time with these days now that he was a Chunin. Naruto in particular was someone that proved the point that you didn't need to be from a different village to be strong. He had defeated Sasuke and was only a year older. You needed the determination and good environment to succeed. If there was one thing that Naruto preached about his success, it was that he had determination and a variety of good teachers. If you had only one teacher, it would make you into a mold of that sensei. If you had multiple teachers, then you would get a better rounded education of the shinobi world. Having Orochimaru as his sole sensei wasn't what Sasuke wanted. He wanted to be strong, and he had noticed that he was becoming a better ninja under the tutelage of Kakashi and to a lesser extent Naruto than what he got from Orochimaru. All the Snake Sannin did was give him a second chakra network. Kakashi was the one that made him become a better ninja. Plus, Naruto was right. If Orochimaru was as interested in him as he said he was, then he would have come here himself. To think that he wasn't strong enough that he could just send these freaks after him was an insult on his Uchiha pride. 5 fingers of Naruto lit up in a bright orange. Sasuke had seen this all too well in spars with Naruto, and knew that now was time to make his move unless he wanted to get caught in the crossfire. Katan, Tenshi Shuriuden, fire release, drilling finger grenades. Naruto muttered under his breath as he launched the jutsu at the enemies. He was confident that Sasuke would find a way to get out of the situation without any lasting damage. Indeed, he did as Naruto fired off the jutsu. Sasuke used this distraction to use the replacement jutsu and get out of harm's way. Admittedly, the blonde Chunin didn't think that this would do much damage, but it would be a good way to make this fight 3v4 instead of 2v4. When the smoke cleared from the explosions, Naruto, Konohamaru were left with some very angry faces. Not that this fazed any of the Chunins. The one thing that intrigued the 3 Konoha ninjas was that there were black markings that were going over the face of Jirobo. Konohamaru and Sasuke both instantly knew what this was, but Naruto had no idea. Seeing the look on the face of his comrade, Konohamaru decided to enlighten Naruto. That's the curse seal that Orochimaru implants on his victims. It gives the user more chakra but screws with their mind, turning them into Orochimaru's little dick sleeve. Actually, on second thought, I can totally see why you would want to go to him since you love getting plowed up the ass team. TCH. Shut up, dope. Sasuke angrily replied with visible anger marring his face, which was saying a lot given his rather impressive emotional control. Naruto merely turned to Konohamaru with a curious expression on his face. How would you know that that's what Sasuke likes? Is it because you're the one doing it? A red flush rapidly appeared on the face of Konohamaru. What? No, before he could retort any more, the brown-haired boy immediately channeled chakra into his wrist. This made the parting gift of his grandfather come into action. The Sarutobi gripped a red staff that came out of the seal and started spinning it relentlessly. With the inclusion of chakra, Konohamaru was able to deflect the incoming rocks aimed for his team. We need to focus and kill these scum. They helped Orochimaru kill my grandfather. Killing intent flooded the terrain as Konohamaru couldn't help but get angry and angrier at the thought of that man. First he had killed his grandfather, and now he wanted to kidnap his best friend. Well, he was not going to let this happen on his watch. What the young Sarutobi was unaware of though was that the Jinchuriki markings on his cheeks were getting progressively darker and darker. Sasuke felt the need to speak up. The fat one showed that he prefers taijutsu, same with the 2-headed freak. The 6-armed guy likes to use ninjutsu who uses spider webs. The girl is a genjutsu user, so I will take her since I am the best genjutsu user. Naruto take the Spider-Man and Konohamaru take the other 2 until either Naruto or myself have killed our opponents, and we will come help you. Naruto didn't have anything against that plan, and since this was not a mission there was no designated leader of the mission. Right, but if you guys can help it, try not to kill them. It was at this point the duo looked at Naruto. We should take them back to that Ibiki guy from the Chunin exams and let him extract absolutely every bit of information from them, and then kill them. A dark grin appeared on the face of Naruto when spoke again. That doesn't mean that we won't be able to dish a hell of a lot of damage to them. You think that you guys are strong enough to do that? Hell, you guys don't even look that challenging. This is a low difficulty mission. Kidamaru replied before chewing on something in his mouth before firing it at Naruto. You two go. I'll be fine by myself," Naruto shouted as he mentally prepared himself for his newest fight. As he said this, Naruto triggered the jutsu that he had been working on when he was training with Danzo. The endoskeleton jutsu allowed Naruto to be hit and take significantly less damage than what other people would. Of course, there was the weak point being the joints, which he had to have, otherwise he would lose a ton of flexibility, but that was not something that was known to anyone. With the skeleton activated, it allowed Naruto to take a calculated risk. He wanted to see what he was dealing with in this fight. That was why he took the spider web that was shot at him and let it hit him in his hand, pinning it to the tree behind him. Curious as to how strong it was, Naruto tried to pull his arm free and noticed that it didn't budge an inch. There was a bit of panic in the eyes of Naruto as he saw the incoming kunai from his opponent. The blonde Chunin switched it up. Instead of channeling plain old regular chakra into his hand, Naruto channeled Katan chakra and watched how it burnt through the silk with ease. Naruto grinned as he had a new way to combat his foe, and then, in an instant, he disappeared. Naruto appeared right in front of Kadamaru with bones coming out of every joint in his body, and Naruto managed to swipe his elbows so that the spike managed to just scrape the right arm of Kadamaru. The Uzumaki didn't waste any time as he attempted to give a vicious kick to the thigh of his opponent. Unfortunately for Naruto, this was where the 6 arms of Kadamaru kicked in. He was able to block the attack. This is just like fighting Kimimaro. He is far too quick and deadly for me to handle in a close-range fight. I need to make this a long-range fight. Holding Naruto with his arms, Kadamaru surprised Naruto by forming a kunai. What Naruto noticed was that this one just so happened to a different color than the previous web. This string solidified right in front of Naruto's very eyes and watched in horror as it was shot right into his clavicle. Kadamaru, on the other hand, was shocked at the damage done as he didn't expect it to only embed so far. Sure, he hadn't been able to get that much momentum, but since he used his chakra to fire it off, it surely should have sunk into his skin more. He had to shake this off though, as he felt his hands heating up rapidly. It would not be good if his hands were so burnt that he couldn't use chakra. Kadamaru instantly let go and used the Shunshin to put some distance between the two. This guy is a taijutsu monster like Kimimaro-sama. There's no way that I can enter a close-range fight and win. As these thoughts were running through the mind of the Otogekure ninja, his curse seal had already activated and was repairing the damage that had been done by Naruto at a slightly faster rate. I can't let him hit me with those kunai that he made often, whilst it hit my endoskeleton and not my organs. Taking hits like that isn't fun. He seems like he wants to make this into a long-range fight. Well, that's fine with me, as I have a few jutsus that I want to test out as well. Katan, Heizukisho, fire release, ash pile burning, Naruto chanted in his mind as it helped him use the new jutsu. This was the first time that he had field tested it, so he was definitely curious as to what would happen. Fresh with a large supply of chakra that would only continue to grow as he got older, Naruto poured a fair amount of chakra into the jutsu. When he was satisfied with the amount of ash that had been deposited into the forest, Naruto smirked and released the trigger. If Konohamaru's heart was beating fast before, well, it definitely was when he felt the explosion and felt the heat hit his face. It hurt, but he knew that he could handle it. He didn't know who had done it, but he hoped that his friends were not caught in the crossfire. The burn marks that appeared on his arm were already starting to heal thanks to the Biju chakra coursing through his veins. A grin formed on the face of Konohamaru though, as he saw that he wasn't the only one to take damage from whatever the hell that explosion was. One of the body double people of whatever they were took some serious damage and had burn marks all over his face. "Sakan! We need to combine! Ah, this shit hurts!" Yukon called out to his brother. The duo appeared together and started the merging process, allowing Yukon to heal up. Konohamaru had placed his staff back into its seal and prepared for a ninjutsu fight, and if there was one thing that was known about Jinchuriki, then you knew not to get into a ninjutsu cockfight because you simply wouldn't win. Jinchuriki pretty much had a never-ending chakra supply. Doton Doryuden, Earth Release, Earth Dragon Bullet Jutsu. Naruto called out with vehemence as a dragon head rose out of the ground and started firing off balls of rock at his two enemies. Doton Dor Kageshi, Earth Release, Earth Shore Return. Jirobo called out as he made a wall come up and block the bullets from hitting either him or Sakan/Yukon. Whoever this kid is, he sure is tasty. Konohamaru moved forward from the defensive wall and used it as cover. Using one of the jutsus taught to him by his grandfather, the Chunin went underground and managed to surprise the two and summoned his power pole before smashing Jirobo in the face. Naruto planned to go continue the attack but was stopped by Sakan, who launched a vicious kick in his direction. This kid is a Jinchuriki. Fuck. This makes it much harder than normal since I can't use any of my bloodline techniques. Thankfully for the Otogekure ninja, not being able to use his clan techniques didn't render his offensive output to just taijutsu and weapons. There was a reason why he was one of the Sound 4. Raitun, Raikyu! Lightning release, lightning ball, Sakan called out and unleashed the ball at Naruto, who used his enhanced physical abilities thanks to the Kyuubi to evade the attack. Sakan wasn't entirely concerned with the jutsu not hitting its intended target because he was mainly using this as time for Jirobo to get back on his feet. Apparently the previous attack had hurt/angered the orange-haired person to the point that he had activated his curse seal to the second level. Doton, Doryu Dango. Earth release, Earth Mausoleum Dumpling. Jirobo shouted as he picked up a large boulder from the earth below and heaved it in the direction of Konohamaru. He may have been feeling the effects of the cursed seal as Jirobo was pretty much running on fumes at the moment. There was not really any form of strategy as he wished to simply brute force his opponent. Sakan found himself having to take control of the situation and guiding Jirobo on how to fight. Ugh! This is so troublesome. Despite having the Kyuubi inside him clouding his judgment, Konohamaru knew that it was not wise at all to try and take that boulder head on. He knew that he would have to dodge it, and dodge it he did. Konohamaru followed it up with the Grand Fireball Jutsu. Fighting against one opponent was much easier in comparison to fighting off 4. Sasuke Uchiha actually felt like he had the upper hand in this fight against Tayuya. Sure, he was on the back foot because he was going up against these Doki creatures or whatever they were, but he was not feeling any sense of danger. Thanks to the Sharingan, Sasuke was able to easily see the incoming attacks of the creatures. In addition to this, Sasuke was able to see the chakra coming towards him in the form of a genjutsu. The fact that he had been practicing this over the past month was something that Sasuke was very much thankful for. The Uchiha Chunin was confident that he was using far less chakra than his opponent, and was banking on this having a large impact on the fight down the track. Up until this point, Sasuke had only been using kunai and shuriken against the 3 summons whilst dodging. The great thing was that he wasn't using any form of chakra to keep up the speed he was fighting at apart from what it took to activate the Sharingan. Now that he had surveyed the fight just like Uchihas of old, Sasuke knew that it was time to act. As much as he hated to admit, he had kind of grown to tolerate the presence of both Naruto and Konohamaru. He didn't want anything to happen to them as they were the shield that protected him from the likes of Sakura. God, she was annoying. Sasuke showcased why everyone labeled him as a prodigy. Sasuke used the skills in ration manipulation that he had learned in a month and channeled some ration chakra into a kunai and watched as it sped through the air, coming in contact cleanly with the forehead of the armless Doki. It wasn't the most polished form of elemental manipulation, but it definitely got the job done. A puff of smoke happened, and now Sasuke was only fighting up against 2 summons. 3 Konoha Chunins were unaware that reinforcements were coming for the Otogekure ninjas. Sure, it might have only been 1 ninja, but when that 1 ninja was easily able to defeat all of the Sound 4 at once, it meant that it was significant reinforcements nonetheless. Kimimaro was coming, and he was eagerly awaiting the chance to meet the only other person in the world who carried the same bloodline as him. Chapter 14. And I'll learn how to fly. Naruto dodged the incoming arrow. It took a bit of skin with it, and Naruto knew that he was at a disadvantage if he kept this fight going on from a distance. The spider that had been summoned by Konohamaru was raining spiders down on him, but thankfully Naruto was able to deal with them fairly easily. A well-placed fire ninjutsu was enough to render all those spiders dead. It didn't stop the mother from producing more and more spiderlings as time went on to attack Naruto. The problem was that he had no idea what was on the fangs of the spiders. For all he knew, they could be covered in poison, so he couldn't let any one of them touch him. That would only make the fight harder as time went on. This game is finally getting exciting. You're a pretty good player, but you're still not as good as me, Konohamaru shouted as he was forced to activate the second level of his curse seal. He didn't normally have to do this, so it made a grin form on his face. Naruto was more than happy keeping this fight long range as he was used to fighting close range and it was valuable experience. The problem for Naruto though was that outside of his fire manipulation, the only other forms of long-range combat he had was his finger bullets. Because he had them, he didn't carry kunai and shuriken. Since he was on the outskirts of Konoha, Naruto knew that he couldn't start a whole host of fires as that could potentially do damage to the nearby farms which serviced the village. That was not an option. Denzo-sensei would not be pleased if something like that happened when it could be avoided. Kuchios, Baro no Sudareku Jutsu, summoning, Burrow Strike Jutsu. Naruto called out as he placed his hands on the ground, and half a second later, right beneath the mother spider, a large scorpion launched itself from underground. It used the momentum of the jump to go claws first into the air. Before the spider could even react, the scorpion had clamped down hard on the legs of the spider with its pincers. The scorpion was far enough away that when it hit the spider at the apex of its jump, the spider was not able to get its fangs in range. The scorpion used gravity to its advantage as it fell to the ground, taking the spider along with it. The arachnid hit the ground first, and as it bounced up from the ground, the stinger of the scorpion went right through the head of the spider. A few more strikes later, and the spider died right there. As much as he would like to stay with his summons and thank them for the help, he had a mission to complete. Naruto had a rough idea as to where his enemy was, judging from the angle of the jutsu that had been used on him. There was a fair amount of damage that had been done, and it was only thanks to his bloodline limit that Naruto didn't have any serious damage done to him. A smirk appeared on the face of Naruto, and he rocketed off as fast as he could. If he wasn't able to gain anything from prolonging this fight, then the blonde-haired boy didn't see any real benefit to keeping it going. Naruto was not the best censor, far from it in fact, as he wasn't versed in the art at all. Despite this, even he was able to sense the foul chakra coming from his opponent. It was faint, but he could tell where it was coming from. Ever since the Chunin exams, this was the first fight that he had been pushed to the limit, and it made a smirk appear on his face. Despite the fact that he had the dead bone pulse, Naruto knew that he wasn't invincible. With the amount of chakra the enemy he was facing was putting out, if he put that into an arrow which hit, Naruto was fairly confident it would go straight through. It was why he made a point to move as fast as possible whilst zigzagging in direction unpredictably as possible. He had dodged two of the more powerful arrows by the skin of his teeth when Naruto grinned. He saw a glimpse of his enemy, and channeled chakra into his legs so that he could move that much faster. Seeing the sight of his enemy, Naruto fired off some regular finger bullets. Admittedly, Naruto didn't expect for these to hit. It would be great if they did, but he planned for them to miss. What he was hoping it would do was that it would make the retreat of Kadamaru to a safer location in the direction that Naruto wanted. It did as the vice captain of the Sound 4 darted away from the bones. Ninpu Shun Shin no Jutsu, Ninja Arts, Body Flicker Jutsu, Naruto said to himself, and left with a wisp of fire in his wake. Naruto appeared right in front of Kadamaru with a hand outstretched. This was the first time that he was going to field test the jutsu that Kakashi had started teaching him a month ago. Rasengan! Naruto shouted as he launched the sphere of chakra viciously into the upper chest of his opponent. It grinded into the skin of Kadamaru, and there was no surprise whatsoever as he screamed out in pain from the damage being done. Naruto watched in awe as he saw the damage that the Rasengan was capable of. It didn't just hit the enemy and then dissipate. It continued on through and carved a cavern into Kadamaru's chest. Blood started flying out of his chest, and Naruto cursed as he knew that he was supposed to leave his opponent alive so they could interrogate him. Welp, he hoped that his two friends were doing better after surveying the damage that had been done by the Rasengan. Naruto realized that Kadamaru was not going to make it. Naruto decided to be nice and finish him off. Katon, Tenshi Shuryoden, Fire Release, Drilling Finger Grenades. Naruto called to himself as he pointed his hand down at the enemy and fired the jutsu. All 5 bullets hit the Kadamaru in a vertical line before exploding on impact. Bits of blood, bone and organs went flying in every single direction. Knowing that he had to go help Konohamaru, who was fighting 2 against 1, Naruto sped off in the direction of his colleague. Just where do you think you are going? Sasuke was having a much better time in his fight with Tayuya. Thanks to all of the constant sparring that he had done with Naruto over the past month, Sasuke had improved his taijutsu and physical conditioning immensely. That with the inclusion of the Chikuto in his right hand made it easy for the black-haired boy to dodge the incoming attacks from the Doki. Sasuke realized that Naruto was on another level when it came to taijutsu thanks to his bloodline that he was not going to be able to match. That was something that he realized pretty quickly due to heavy defeats. Thanks to a few missions that he had been on which had ninjas using swords, Sasuke had meager knowledge in kenjutsu. This would only ever get better when he fought opponents who were better in kenjutsu than the ones that he had already faced. At the moment, Sasuke was using a sword from his clan compound whilst waiting for the one that he had specifically ordered to channel lightning chakra to arrive. The raven-haired Uchiha decided that he had managed to steal all of the jutsus from his enemy that he could. Now there was no point in prolonging the fight, especially since Konohamaru was fighting against two people. Not again, Sasuke thought as he vowed to himself that he was never again going to lose the people close to him like what had happened all those years ago. He had finally started opening up to Konohamaru, and to a much lesser extent Naruto. It was always a fear that the Uchiha had in that he didn't want to have to go through the same pain again. Plus, these people were after him and his friends were thrust into a fight that they didn't have any place in. Sasuke didn't want Konohamaru or Naruto to get injured because people were after him. "I'm done playing games. This fight will be over soon," Sasuke muttered under his breath, with his eyes now at the third tomo thanks to another near-death experience courtesy of Naruto. Sasuke could faintly see the haze of chakra which Tayuya was sending in his direction. Despite her wanting to keep this fight long range, it was soon going to change. Right-on chakra started coursing through the metal as gave a bit more potency to the blade. With the way that the blade was shaking, Sasuke could tell that it didn't have that long of a lifespan, but he didn't care. He would be getting a new blade soon. Sasuke made a move and charged at the closest doki in front of him, and sliced the head off the summon with a swipe of his blade. Before the other summons could react, a horizontal slash and a stabbing motion were made. Blood started pouring from the wounds that the Uchiha had made whatever the hell was in front of him, and some of it even landed on his face. It was definitely not a pleasant experience for the Chunin, but he knew that it came with the job. He definitely didn't expect to be a clean ninja all his life. A slight constricting feeling started appearing all over Sasuke's body as he fought the doki. Now I know that I didn't let any of those ogre freaks hit me so they couldn't have poisoned me, and I have the Sharingan on, so this can't be a genjutsu. So what is it? Sasuke asked himself as he felt as if he was being tied up, and the feeling was only getting stronger as every passing second went by. That flute. She's got to be using that to be doing this, and the only thing that would fit would be sound-based genjutsu. All genjutsus target the senses and most go for the eyes as they are the most relied upon sense, but this one must be different. It must go for the hearing since I have the Sharingan which can see all sight-based genjutsus. Sasuke thought to himself as he remembered reading everything he could on the art of genjutsu, since he knew that one day he would have to go up against the world's best genjutsu user, that being his brother. Sasuke held his free hand in the ram symbol and channeled chakra. His eyes widened and he almost shat his pants with how close he was from being dead. It was only thanks to the Sharingan that Sasuke was able to see the incoming kunai and react in such a small space of time. If I didn't have the Sharingan, then I would have died there. I need to be better than this. Itachi won't let me make the same mistakes. Furious with himself for his apparent weaknesses, Sasuke charged off in the direction where the kunai came from and caught a glimpse of chakra. He smirked, now knowing that this fight was as good as over. Fuck shit, fuck cunt shit, wanker slut was the internal monologue as she saw the target coming at a very fast speed towards her. She knew that she was a specialized ninja and long-range combat was ideal. She desperately needed to make the distance between the two grow so that she could resummon some doki. Tayuya threw multiple kunai and shuriken at Sasuke, but the Sharingan was simply too good despite the red-haired girl activating her level 2 cursed seal. The throwing power boost she received didn't mean anything to the Sharingan, which allowed Sasuke to parry away the incoming pieces of metal. Fear started rapidly forming inside of Tayuya as she knew she was up shit creek without a paddle. Her opponent had her on the ropes, and he knew it. To compound onto this, she knew that Sasuke was faster than her, which meant that she couldn't run away. You should have learnt that there is a reason why the Uchiha clan are so feared around the world. It isn't something that was said without being backed up, and I will now show you why we are so feared. You pathetic little fuckers can't be feared. You all got killed off by one guy. Talk about W-. Tayuya couldn't finish her statement, as Sasuke rammed the electricity-charged sword right into the throat of his enemy. It smashed through the teeth and came out the other side. Blood started freely pouring out of the hole that the Uchiha Chunin had just made. Sasuke pulled the blade out of the woman. For confirmation's sakes, Sasuke sliced his enemy's head off just to confirm that she couldn't get back up and do some damage to him. As he wiped his sword on the girl's clothes, the raven-haired boy then sheathed his blade and headed off in the direction of where Konohamaru last was. He didn't mind so much in killing his opponent as it would allow him to go and help his friend, comrade, that much quicker. When he knew Konohamaru was fine, then he could worry about capturing one of them for an interrogation. Just where do you think you're going, Uzumaki Naruto? A voice from behind him questioned just as Naruto planned to go help his friends. As soon as he heard this, Naruto immediately turned around to see someone sporting the same belt that the other sound ninjas had. I'm going to go save my friends, Naruto said with narrowed eyes, but he got the impression that he wasn't going to be able to do that. Not with this guy standing near him. You won't be doing that, not today, his opponent stated with a deadpan expression. The blonde was getting annoyed. And why the hell wouldn't I be doing that? Because your fight is with me, trash, the teenager who was a few years older than Naruto stated, and then rushed at Naruto at a frightening speed. Quickly, Naruto brought up his arm to block the strike. Shit! This guy is fast. If I wasn't warmed up from my previous fight, he could have done some serious damage to me just then, Naruto thought to himself whilst taking in air. Whilst the previous fight did indeed warm him up, it was also a double-edged sword as it left him not at full strength. Just who the hell are you? Naruto questioned as he blocked another punch. As he said this, Naruto reactivated his bloodline and became more comfortable with his bones out. Trash like you doesn't deserve to find out my name, but I will tell you the name of the person who will defeat you, Kimimaro stated as he looked down at Naruto, trying to judge the boy. Admittedly, he didn't want to kill Naruto, but he knew that his master's goal came before anything else, even if that anything else was long-lost family. A bone started coming out of the skin, but it wasn't Naruto's arm that it came out of. My name is Kimimaro Kagaya and I am here to see your abilities, Naruto. Naruto was definitely in for a rude awakening as he saw that he was not the only person in the world to manipulate his bones into weapons. As far as he was concerned, he was the only person who could do it, and had come to terms with the fact that he was the last of his kind. Kagaya! I thought that I was the only person that had the dead bone pulse? Naruto said out loud, although it was more to himself than Kimimaro. A million things were going through his mind at the moment, and he struggled to keep focus on the fight. A thin layer of blood started appearing from the cut that had been made by Kimimaro. Despite the fact that he was in a fight to what seemed like the death, Naruto was glad that he wasn't wearing a shirt underneath his Chunin flak jacket. At least I don't have any bloodstains to clean out if I don't wear any clothes. Despite the fact that we are fighting, I have to say that I am happy. This is the first time that I am meeting some of my family. A tiny smile appeared on the face of Kimimaro as Naruto said this before it was squashed. He had a job to complete for Orochimaru-sama. The feeling is mutual. One thing I am curious about is how you have the bloodline. The Kagaya clan was wiped out by Kirigakure a long time ago, and you don't even share the same name as our clan, Kimimaro asked, wondering just how the bloodline of his clan ended up all the way in Konoha. Despite the fact that he didn't like Konoha at all, he still felt that it was a better choice than Kiri given their issues the past few years. To be honest, I have no idea about it. The only thing I can think of was that one of my ancestors was from the Kagaya clan and then the gene was spread but lay dormant. I don't even know if it was my mother or my father who had the gene, Naruto replied, a grin forming on his face as he managed to make his own cut appear on his opponent for the day. Not satisfied with that, Naruto fired off 10 finger bullets right at his enemy, which were fairly easily dodged. Kimimaro responded in kind by firing off the exact same jutsu at Naruto. The two shared a locked gaze. I have to prove myself since he's an original Kagaya. I can't make this easy for Naruto. Whilst I have a mission to complete, I also know that I don't have much time left remaining. Now that I know my clan is not going to die out, I have to make sure that it is in good hands, Kimimaro thought to himself. Despite having loved nothing more to have a family to call his own, he definitely didn't want to pass down the genetics that he had. This disease he had was not something that he wanted his child to suffer from. With the recent turn of events and finding out that Naruto had the bloodline, Kimimaro could find solace in that the clan would continue on. Despite all of that, he had a mission to complete for Orochimaru-sama, and that was of the utmost importance. Kimimaro watched as Naruto fired off. He didn't pay much attention to them as they were fired right in front of his feet. He should have. These were different. It was only the last second when Kimimaro noticed the fact that these finger bullets were different from normal ones. He's gone down the route of combining his element with the dead bone pulse. I can't believe I never thought of that. The Kagaya realized at the last second, but it was too late to dodge the attacks now that they were so close. The second that the finger grenades made contact with the ground right in front of Kimimaro, they exploded in a shower of burning bone fragments. It was far too late for the Kagaya to dodge the incoming attack, so he did the best thing he could. he brought his hands up to protect his upper body and face from the damage. A slight grimace was heard by Naruto from his opponent. Naruto grinned as he knew that this meant that some of the attack connected. Not wanting to waste any time, the blonde-haired boy went through some hand seals. Katan, Gakkaku no Jutsu, Fire Release, Grand Fireball Jutsu! Before the jutsu was even close to him, Kimimaro could feel the incoming heat. He couldn't see it from the smoke cloud from the previous jutsu, but he knew where it was coming from. Curse this trash, I have to dodge this attack or otherwise I will be burned alive. I have to complete my mission for Orochimaru-sama. I definitely didn't expect any Konoha scum to force me into using my curse seal, but I guess it had to be the Kagaya clan member. The first stage of the curse seal granted to him by his master activated and covered his body, and black tribal-esque markings appeared all over his body. A few patches of skin were missing, and whilst that definitely did hurt, all of his major organs were still fine, so Kimimaro persevered through the pain. The small healing ability provided by the curse seal would definitely be in action today. Panting for breath, Naruto watched how his opponent came out of the cloud of smoke and waited. He was pretty confident that attack had to have done some damage to Kimimaro. Naruto realized that shit just got real and he was in for a whole new world of hurt. The sound ninja rocketed forward in the direction of Naruto, slammed his elbow into the boy. Whilst he knew that he had a fight to finish, Kimimaro for the first time in a long time decided to be selfish. With the clan about to be down to one member soon enough, he had to ensure that the future of the clan was in good hands. If he killed Naruto straight away, then that would put that in jeopardy. Wheezing, Naruto got up as quickly as possible from the hit and blocked the incoming swipe that would have surely ended his life. Whatever it was that was increasing Kimimaro's abilities was something that forced Naruto into stepping it up a gear. Konohamaru was dealing with his three enemies. It wasn't easy, but if there was anyone who could do it, it would be the Kyuubi Juggernaut. With the amount of chakra that he had at his disposal, it meant that he was the best person to stall out the fight until help from either Naruto or Sasuke came. Given the fact that these people in front of him were accomplices helping Orochimaru murder his grandfather, Konohamaru was contemplating going on the offensive and ripping them to pieces, but he had a role to play, and if he wanted to become the Hokage, he needed to follow the rules. Personal satisfaction wasn't worth losing his friends though, so the boy played the patient game and waited until one of his comrades came and helped him out. Konohamaru launched another fireball at his enemy, still playing the stalling game. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw something and couldn't help but grin. He now knew that it was time to go on to the offensive, and thanks to the fact that he had the Kyuubi inside of him, Konohamaru had all the chakra in the world to facilitate that. The Sarutobi heir pulled the red staff from his back and grinned as he felt the Kyuubi's chakra race through him. Whilst most of his training came from his grandfather, he had to attribute the usage of the Kyuubi's chakra to Jiraiya. His whisker marks were more pronounced, eyes were crimson red with black slits, and there were faint traits red chakra surrounding him, but nothing more. A familiar sound of 1,000 chirping birds rang through the air, and Konohamaru couldn't help but look on in jealousy. He had seen just how much damage that the jutsu Sasuke was using could do, and wanted one of his own. It was too bad that with Earth Release as his main element, learning a high-powered lightning release jutsu would be easy by any stretch of the imagination. A split second later and Konohamaru realized that now was his time to go on the offensive. After seeing Sasuke take out one of the twins, Konohamaru realized that if he didn't want to miss out on getting some revenge against the people who helped kill his grandfather, then he was going to have to act soon. Konohamaru sprinted off the ground and raced to the fat enemy whose attention was focused solely on Sasuke. Admittedly, he wished that this fight was a bit harder, but he couldn't complain as he was confident that no one was going to come out of this without any serious injuries. Racing forward, Konohamaru smashed the end of the pole into the stomach of Jirobo before launching a vicious slam with the other end of the pole into the back of Jirobo's head. The force from the attack was enough to push the man's head face first into the ground. A sickening crack noise came when bone connected with dirt. Blood was flowing freely. It wasn't a pretty sight. Konohamaru didn't rest on his laurels though, as he swung his stick with one final blow into the base of his opponent's neck. Once again sounds were made, and this time it was in the form of a snapping sound. Konohamaru couldn't offer up any words as he stared down at the victim of his first kill. Sure. He knew that it was something that was expected since he was a ninja, but it wasn't easy to stomach. The only saving grace that was running through his mind at the moment was that the person who he killed was an accomplice of Orochimaru. Konohamaru, snap out of it! Sasuke shouted, annoyed at his teammate. Death is something that you will have to come to deal with in this profession. Now do you want to gain revenge to the people who killed your grandfather or not? This person here is in a genjutsu. Do you want to give the final blow or do you want me to do it? Sasuke offered as he knew just how much of a big deal revenge was. If Konohamaru was in the same position with Itachi, he would expect his comrade to give him the offer. This did indeed snap the Chunin out of his funk. Konohamaru shook his head to rid himself of his thoughts. Thanks, Sasuke team. I will do it, Konohamaru said before pulling out a kunai. He couldn't bring himself to slice the neck of his enemy, but he felt confident in being able to do it from a distance. A minute and an earth release jutsu later, and the evidence of murder was buried beneath the ground. We should head over to where Naruto is. We don't know what state he is in or if he has defeated his target, Sasuke stated as he took command of the situation. After all, it was people after him that brought his comrades into this mess. He wasn't about to let the closest things he had to friends die because of that. Blood freely fell from the butt on his forehead from the cut inflicted by Kimimaro. His knees were weak, his arms were heavy, and he constantly had to keep wiping the blood out of his eyes if he wanted to stand a chance against his distant relative. It was easily the toughest fight by far that he had been in, and it didn't seem like it was going to let up any time soon. Naruto wiped away the blood from his eyes for the fourth time. Katon Tenshi Shurioden, fire release, drilling finger grenades, Naruto called out. I guess it will have to do. He knew it was bad to call out the name of each jutsu, but it would serve its purpose. Jumping back from his position in the field, Naruto was glad that there were trees nearby because he sure as shit knew that if he had to fight up against Kimimaro in an open field, he would be a corpse right about now. Whatever those markings are, they sure gave him a power boost. Is this the shit that Sasuke has access to? Naruto thought to himself as he could definitely see some benefits to having it, but surely, for something so powerful there had to be consequences. When he wasn't using it, Naruto was able to fight Kimimaro to a standstill. Both landed hits, and Naruto liked to think that he was slowly getting the edge over his opponent. The only saving grace that Naruto could see was that Kimimaro was coughing quite frequently. Given his opponent, Naruto would have loved to be facing a fully fit Kimimaro so that he could test his bloodline to the fullest. He was not complaining. This was a fight that there was only going to be one person walking away from alive. Both parties had conflicting missions and there was no emotional attachment allowing for a truce to occur. You are quite skilled, Naruto, far better than the rest of the trash that Konoha has produced, Kimimaro said with a panting breath. He didn't show it, but he was quite happy with that comment. Ever since he found out that he had the dead bone pulse bloodline, Naruto wondered what his distant relatives would think of him and his abilities. But you are still no match for me, Kimimaro stated before he raced towards Naruto. Oh yeah, well we will see about that. Naruto returned serve, and just as the two Kagaya clan members were about to clash in a forest of bones, Sasuke appeared. Sasuke, without warning, slammed a high-powered kick into the unsuspecting Kimimaro's obliques, smashing him into a tree. What the fuck, Sasuke? This is my fight, Naruto shouted in the heat of the moment. TCH, you looked like you needed it, Sasuke replied, annoyed at the fact that he was coming to aid his friend and it was getting shoved back into his face. Sorry, Sasuke, it's just look who my opponent is. This is more than just some random enemy ninja. This is a fight that I need to do on my own. When Naruto said this, Sasuke looked over and noticed what Naruto was talking about. Instantly, he understood. If he finally got to have a fight with Itachi, he wouldn't want Naruto or Konohamaru for that matter interfering within the fight unless absolutely necessary, and even then he would probably have a grudge against that person. Fine, but if it ever looks like you are going to get yourself killed, Konohamaru and I are going to step in whether you like it or not. I actually want a challenge in this race for Hokage, and with you gone all I have left to prove myself against is the dobe, and that is no challenge at all. Naruto smirked and turned his attention back to his distant cousin whilst he could hear a "Hey!" in the background. I'm not going to last much longer, I can feel it, and even if I did defeat Naruto, I would have to contend with the Jinchuriki and Sasuke before I can even think of bringing the Uchiha back to Orochimaru-sama. It's easy to tell that he does not want to come. For the first time in a long time, Kimimaro decided he wanted to be selfish. He wanted to follow his own goals rather than those of Orochimaru. With that thought in mind, Kimimaro activated the final stage of the curse seal, knowing that it was only going to hasten his death. Well, fuck me, Naruto muttered to himself as he noticed what was happening to his distant cousin's body. To his horror, Kimimaro did something that none of the 3 Konoha ninjas in attendance thought was possible. Sure, Naruto had toyed with the idea, but he had never seriously considered it. Kimimaro pulled his spine out of his upper back and didn't die from it. Let's see how you handle this, young Naruto. And in a dash, the enemy ninja vanished, reappearing about 5 meters away from Naruto, and swung the bone whip. Thanks to the cartilage in the spine, Kimimaro was able to use it as a whip. Ah! Naruto cried out in pain as thankfully he had his endoskeleton jutsu working overtime. Bone raked on bone, but not before having sliced through skin as if it was butter. Blood was spurting out of the wound. Naruto was lucky he had his endoskeleton jutsu running on overtime, because if it wasn't for that, he was confident that he would have died. Konohamaru, who watched this happen, couldn't take it. He couldn't bear to see another one of the Sound Ninjas taking the life of one of his Leaf Village comrades. Over the course of the last few weeks, he had gotten to know Naruto, and whilst he wouldn't consider the guy his friend just yet, he still didn't want him to get permanently hurt. Going into action, Konohamaru went through some hand seals and slipped into the ground beneath him. Unaware of what was going on, Naruto knew that he needed to go on the offensive. He couldn't keep taking hits like that and expect to live to tell the tale. The quicker he ended this, the better. I have to end this fight close range. If we stay at this distance, he is going to keep pulverizing me with that whip. A thought was in the back of his mind as to what he could do when he got up close and personal with his enemy, but he wasn't sure if it would work. He had tested it in training, but he had never field tested it. What's the worst that could happen, he thought. In a speed that he hadn't displayed before, Naruto raced forward, hoping to cut the distance and making the whip less powerful. Naruto held out his right hand, chakra forming. Kimimaro watched with interest, waiting to see what Naruto would do. With his left hand, Naruto quickly did the hand seals for the Shunshin and disappeared with a fire trailing behind him. The second he reappeared in front of Kimimaro, Naruto thrust his palm into the chest of his opponent. Rasengan! Naruto shouted out as he thrust the ball of chakra into human flesh for the first time. Naruto gritted his teeth as he pushed the jutsu as hard as he could. There was a reason why the Kagaya were a feared bloodline, as the bones were proving tough to crack. In the end, the Rasengan won out and forced the enemy ninja to collide with a tree, smashing into it with emphasis. Blood came spurting out from the mouth of Kimimaro, and was also dripping from the wound created. There was even some black liquid pooling out as well. The second level of the Curcio receded, and not by choice. Kimimaro didn't realize that whatever that jutsu that Naruto had would be that powerful. He was assured by his ultimate defense, but unfortunately that wasn't the case. Seeing the damage done, Naruto ran over to him with his hand held out, and another Rasengan formed in it. I'm sorry it had to be this way, but this ends now. Kimimaro struggled to shake his head. I have a terminal disease anyway, so don't take this personally. I knew my fate was coming to an end, and to have it taken by the last member of the Kagaya clan is an honor. Before he could say any more, Kimimaro coughed up a wad of blood. This didn't bother Naruto, who was heavily leaning on one leg, confident that his cousin wasn't going to try anything. Out of the corner of his eye, Naruto noticed that Sasuke put a hand in front of Konohamaru to stop the two from coming over. Thanks, Sasuke, I owe you one. Naruto, I want to warn you though. You need to get stronger. There will be many people who will try and use our bloodline for their own agendas. I know you probably think Konoha wouldn't do this, but you are wrong. Danzo would be a prime example of this. Kimimaro stated without knowing whether or not Naruto knew the man. That's the second time someone has said to be extra careful around Danzo-sensei. I guess I have to be more careful, especially since Kimimaro mentioned it. I mean, just how does he know sensei? Unfortunately, I can't be of any more help to you, young Naruto, about the clan and improving your abilities, as that is something that you will have to do on your own. I will say I am impressed with your abilities and hope that you restore the clan to a clan with honor and pride, rather than the way the clan was previously viewed. Kimimaro was cut off with an intense bout of coughing, given the pain he was in. Now, Naruto, please finish me off. I am in too much pain to continue, Kimimaro requested to his enemy. The last Kagaya clan member nodded resolutely and shoved the Rasengan into the heart of his relative. Chapter 15. I'll do what it takes. So, just like we spoke about Naruto-kun, this will be a very delicate procedure, and I have to admit, I haven't done anything similar to this before. Naruto nodded with seriousness as Dr. Yakushi spoke. Naruto knew the pressure that was on him, as one of his friends' life was on the line. He couldn't and wouldn't fuck up. The first place that we will start is his left pinky toe and go from there across his toes before going to his fingers. The more experience we get doing this, the more confidence we will have when moving on to larger bones. This was all a new process for Naruto, so he was hanging off every word. Without overthinking this situation, let's get to it, Dr. Yakushi stated, to which Naruto nodded. Naruto channeled chakra the same way he did if he had to modify a bone inside his body to his hands. Thankfully for Naruto, Dr. Yakushi took all the guesswork out of it for Naruto. In one hand, he was using a scalpel to cut open the skin where the bone would be and detach the bone from everything. In the other hand, he was using Medical Ninja to convert the chakra that Naruto was giving him and turning it into a bone before attaching it to all of the tendons and muscles. As far as Naruto was concerned, this guy was the real deal. There was a reason that he was the head of the hospital. Good work, Naruto-kun. The more you can focus on creating the bone with your chakra, the more I can focus on attaching it to the body, which is the hard part, the gray-haired man stated. Naruto, resolute in his mission to help his friend get better, attempted to do just that. He viewed it as yet another chakra control exercise. With each bone getting successfully replaced, both Naruto and Dr. Yakushi were getting more and more confident in themselves. The first toe took 10 minutes, the second 8. 5, and the third 8. By the time that the doctor called for a break, Naruto and the doctor, they had managed to repair the hands and feet of Lee as best as they could. The other thought running through their mind was that they wanted to be fresh for the hardest part of the surgery. With the external limbs and then the torso coming up next, Naruto wanted to make sure that he was as ready as he could be for that. Walking out of the surgery, Naruto was instantly greeted by all of Team 9. Yash! Naruto-kun! Are Lee's flames of youth burning brightly? Guy immediately questioned as he spotted the blonde-haired boy. Naruto grinned. So far, at the moment, everything is going well. Before Naruto could continue on, he was wrapped up in a large hug from a man wearing full-body spandex. The Uzumaki was lucky that nothing was pressed up against him. Yash, Naruto-kun! I am eternally grateful for what you have done. Your flames of youth burn brightly. Yes, thank you, Naruto-kun, for doing this. You don't know how much this means to our team and most importantly Lee, Tenten stated with a big smile on her face. She was finally going to see her teammate on the road to recovery. Soon, before she knew it, Lee would be back doing mission with the team. It was then that Naruto's smile faded. Nothing's finalized yet. I mean, me and Yakushi-sensei have only done Lee's hands and feet. It takes a fair amount of chakra and concentration. I'm just having a break to get some food and then I will be going back into the surgery to finish the job, Naruto replied, hoping to calm the expectations that were placed on him. After all this was only his first rodeo. Naruto-kun, where do you want to go to eat then? I will happily pay for whatever you want to eat, Guy, in usual Guy fashion, asked his most recent student. It didn't take long for Naruto to make up his mind. Slowly, complete and utter darkness got brighter and brighter until it was white. Rock Lee opened his eyes for the first time since the surgery and a smile was on his face, desperate to hear what had happened. Easy, Genin-san. Your body is still recovering from the surgery. I want you to sit still, Yakushi stated, to which Lee nodded. There were a few hiccups as this was something that had never been done before, but as time went on, Naruto and I got more proficient at the task and everything appears to have been done successfully, Dr. Yakushi stated, which brought out a massive smile on the face of Lee. His dream of becoming a shinobi of merit had been resurrected. I would even suggest that you may come out of this better than normal in the long run. When the doctor stated this, Lee looked on with curiosity brimming from his eyes. Naruto-kun did not just replace your bones with healthy bones of your average teenage male. He replaced them with the same ones that are inside his body. Having the Kekkei bones will mean that your body will be able to sustain more muscle and suffer less health-related issues that come with that. It will also mean that you are more durable as well as be able to apply more force into hits as a taijutsu user. Rock Lee was blown away by this. He knew that he had a disadvantage of not being able to use chakra, but hopefully with this, he would be able to become a truly splendid ninja just like Guy-sensei. Before he could do that though, there was one person that he needed to thank. That person was Naruto. Thank you, Naruto-kun, from the bottom of my heat. My flames of youth are eternally in your debt, Lee stated whilst bowing as much as his current situation allowed him to. Hey, don't worry about it, Lee. I'm happy to help out my friends. Just make sure that you put in extra hard work now that you have this second chance, Naruto said, fully knowing what type of reaction this would garner from the genin. The eyes of Niji and Tenten widened in horror. They too knew what this meant, and it was something that they were not all too keen about. Yash, Naruto-kun, I will do that, and if I cannot, I will do 20 laps around the village with one foot tied to my back, and if I cannot do that, my hands will not leave the bar until I do 1,000 chin-ups. Lee. Guy-sensei. Lee. Guy-sensei. Naruto saw what would come next and thought he could handle it. He knew about the Sunset Boulevard genjutsu, but that wasn't what happening right now. Instead, since Lee was unable to move, the Jonin managed to wiggle his way onto the bed that Lee was in and snuggle with him. That wasn't the worst part. In the genjutsu, Guy was pointing off to a shooting star as he and Lee walked along the Rainbow Road, shooting above the galaxy. What? I don't even. Naruto struggled to utter as the words wouldn't come out. Curse you, Naruto. Tenten said, but the anger wasn't in her voice. It was far from that. It was the opposite as she watched her teammate and good friend get healed. Naruto sure had changed over the past few years, and as far as she was concerned, it was definitely for the better. Looking back at him. Yeah, it was definitely for the better. It was back to the training ground for Naruto as he had to improve his abilities as a shinobi. From his fight with Kimimaro, Naruto knew just how far he had to go to become a competent shinobi. Naruto was only just getting to the point where he was financially secure, and that taste was making him thirsty. That thirst for money was ever present, and Naruto's motives for becoming a strong shinobi hadn't changed in the past year. That, coupled in with the chance to become the Hokage and also making the Kage clan as famous as the Hozuki, Senju and Uchiha clan once were in their heydays, meant that Naruto's focus was as clear as ever. He was going to become a legend. Already, Naruto had an idea of what he could to improve himself as a shinobi outside of just refining the training that he had already undertaken. Finally, it's taken some time to get in touch with you since you have been a busy guy recently, an unknown person said, completely blindsiding Naruto with his appearance. Whoever this guy is, he sure is good. Ah, that's why. It's Jiraiya. To be honest, Naruto didn't know what to think, as Jiraiya was Konoha's strongest ninja now that the third Hokage had passed away. On the other hand, this person was the same one that was supposed to be his godfather according to what Kakashi had told him, and yet, in his 14 years of life, Naruto had never seen the man before. So you're Jiraiya. What would the strongest shinobi in the entire village want with a random teenager? Naruto questioned, getting straight to the point. He also wasn't sure whether or not Jiraiya knew if he knew just the relationship between the two was. I am not just Jiraiya. As he said this, Naruto watched as a plume of smoke appeared and Jiraiya reappeared on top of a frog. I am the legendary Toad Sannin, super pervert extraordinaire. Men envy me and women want to be with me, but most of all, everyone wants to be me. Jiraiya enthusiastically stated as he did his whole song and dance routine. Again, as I stated, why are you specifically here and interested in someone so far beneath your stature? The blonde-haired Chunin questioned. Fairly confident Jiraiya didn't know that he knew the truth. Ah man, he didn't even acknowledge a gamma. Jiraiya pouted as he comfortingly rubbed the head of the toad he was standing on. I goals to reach. I don't care if you're Jiraiya of the Sannin or not. I've insulted the daimyo to his face, so don't misunderstand me when I say this. If you do not have a reason for being here, then can you politely fuck off? Naruto emphatically said whilst staring directly at Jiraiya. Fuck me sideways, this kid has all of the best and worst traits from Kushina and Minato combined. With that determination I can just tell that this kid is going to become a monster very soon. That, and including the skills that he showed at the exam. Fuck me, what are they feeding these kids? Jiraiya thought to himself in shock. He thought that Konohamaru was good, but there was the nagging thought that the Kyuubi was helping him a fair bit in giving the boy an unfair advantage. Naruto, though, he didn't have anything like that at all. Almost instantly, Jiraiya dropped from the toad, which summoned itself, and removed the kabuki makeup he had going on. Alrighty then, geez, tough crowd. And I thought that the first thing that would come out of your mouth would be a request for me to train you. Naruto was confused when he heard this statement. Why would I ask you for training? I am already getting training from multiple people, which is hard enough to balance. Oh yeah, well, who are your teachers? I am sure that there are areas in which I could teach you more about. Ah, so that's his angle, he wants to be my sensei. I suppose it can't hurt having one more sensei. I won't let him in on my personal life though. He hasn't earned that yet. Alright then. I've got Asuma sensei and Kakashi sensei to teach me ninjutsu, Guy sensei teaching me taijutsu at the moment. What can you offer me? He didn't mention Danzo. It seems as if Naruto knows that that association may have potential negative consequences. That means that he still hasn't been converted into a root shinobi. There's time for me to properly become a godfather again. I could offer you a lot of things considering the fact that I am the premier seal master in Konohas and also I am the Katon user here as well. Whilst this all did sound good, Naruto wasn't so sure. Sure, learning seals would be good, but it wouldn't help him that much in the long term as he needed to get strong quickly. If he was going to be in the running, he couldn't go back to learning the basics of a new skill set. He needed to expand on the skills that he already had, cause he was sure as shit that neither Konohamaru or Sasuke were going to rest on their laurels and hand the title over to him. I still don't see why you would want to train me. I mean, I imagine you must have to go out of your way to come visit me. But that's going to change soon as I will finally be moving out of my shitty apartment just beside the red light district. Thankfully, over the past 7 months since joining Team 10, Naruto had managed to save up enough money to get a deposit down on a 2-bedroom unit thanks to the prize money for winning the Chunin exams as well as the sponsorship deal he got. Ever since the blonde-haired boy worked out what renting was, he knew that he wanted to get out of it as soon as possible. He didn't want to be paying off someone else's mortgage. Now that he had the financial means to do so, he could focus on other things. Well, to be honest, I see a lot of potential in you. I know that it has come to the time where Konoha's next generation must stand up and take the reins. If he was honest, it was mostly Minato's generation's job to do this, but unfortunately that was not to be. Naruto was about to challenge whether or not that was really the reason why Jiraiya was teaching him, but he kept his mouth shut. Okay, well, I was planning on working on my fire manipulation, and since you said that you are the best at that, could you please help me with that? Sure thing, Gaki. But you gotta call me Jiraiya-sama if you want me to teach all my super cool moves. You have to earn that title. At the moment, you've done nothing to help me, so why should I show you any sign of respect or affection? Damn, Gaki knows how to dredge up low blows. Damn, that felt good. I even got him to wince. Serves him right. Fair enough, kid. Show me what you got. Show me how good your fire manipulation is. Naruto then proceeded to show Jiraiya that he could maintain a small fire on a green leaf fairly competently. He had tried a few times with the dry leaf, but so far no luck. It was during this time that there was another arrival to the training ground. That was none other than Sasuke Uchiha. When Naruto spotted Sasuke walk over and wanted to put something to the test, he wanted to see just how much Jiraiya was true to his word. Hey Sasuke, Jiraiya over here wants to help out the next generation and is willing to teach you. Sasuke was definitely surprised. It was not every day that you got to train with one of the legendary Sannin. Is that true, Jiraiya? A scowl appeared on Jiraiya's face for a second before it was removed. Damn, brat has put me into a position where I can't say no without explaining why I only want to train him. Sure, but only if you call me Jiraiya-sensei. Okay then, Jiraiya-sensei. What do you want me to do? Sasuke questioned as he knew that this man in front of him was either as powerful or even more powerful than his elder brother. If he wanted to make the most of this, he would have to enact the etiquette lessons his mother taught him. He didn't want to screw this up. Come at me with the intent to kill. I want to see what you are made of. Sasuke didn't need to be told twice. Panting, Naruto grinned as he finally finished the workout that Jiraiya had put him through. It was arguably as tough as the workouts he had to endure with Gai-sensei, but he wasn't complaining. Not one bit, as Naruto knew that if he wanted to get to the top, he was going to have to put in the hard effort to get there. The past week training with Jiraiya had been fun. Even Sasuke had admitted it privately. Jiraiya was a wealth of knowledge that they had both been using. Sasuke was the one who had benefited the most from Jiraiya's tutelage. Flashback. Okay kid, so we both know why you want to get stronger, and let me tell you, I've been on countless missions with Uchihas in the past, so I know how you guys work. Now, instead of me just pointing out your weak points, I want you to tell me where you believe yours are that you need to improve on. Sasuke nodded when he heard this. He wasn't sure what the difference was really, and he imagined that Jiraiya could see more flaws than he could, but he would humor the man. TCH. My genjutsu is nothing compared to Itachi's. My strength needs to catch up to my speed. Also, I need to fight a good kenjutsu user so I can copy their fighting style, as I have only just started using my Chikuto. Kid, I agree with you on everything, but don't beat yourself up. My genjutsu abilities are absolute shit compared to Itachi's. Pretty much every single ninja in the world has shit genjutsu abilities compared to him. You don't have to be good at genjutsu. You just have to be able to counter the ones that he throws at you. Sasuke's eyes widened when hearing this, as he admitted only to himself that he was never really that fond of genjutsu. He was much more a fan of action and direct combat. In terms of your physical conditioning, you need to improve it quite a bit. The only problem is that this one isn't going to be an easy fix. It is going to take hard work and a lot of time, coupled with the right diet. At the moment, you are supplementing your speed with your chakra. I could have easily put a seal on you that modifies your chakra and render you unable to use it. You would become far weaker than Naruto would be if the same seal was applied to him, as you are far more reliant on your chakra. Make no mistake, there will come a time when you are unable to use your chakra and you will need to get out of a sticky situation. Sasuke nodded in agreement. The other thought that was going through his mind was that if he became better without chakra, then when he used it, he would get that much stronger. A smirk appeared on his face. Your kenjutsu will come with time. I'm shit when it comes to using a sword. I wouldn't be much help in that area, unfortunately. Now, do you want me to tell you what I noticed? Jiraiya questioned with a rare serious expression on his face. He normally didn't like kids like Sasuke, as he didn't have a personality. It would be a test. To be perfectly honest, he didn't really want to hear it, but the raven-haired boy knew that if he did, he would be able to work on his weaknesses rather than neglect them. He was all in favor of short-term pain if it meant that he would be able to kill that man. Your ninjutsu is very good for someone of your age and rank, but it also has the potential to be so much better. It's obvious that your Raiten is your natural element, but you're much better at using fire than you are lightning. Is this some sort of Uchiha pride where the only element is fire? Sasuke couldn't help but roll his eyes when he heard about the famous Uchiha pride. Sure, he and the rest of his family were proud of their abilities, as they rightfully should be, and there were some exceptions where the stereotype stemmed from, but if he ever heard someone mention it, he would look down on them. No, Sasuke muttered. Admitting to this wasn't one of his proudest moments. I only found out that a month ago. My father forced me to learn the fireball as a rite of passage, and I never questioned it, so I always thought my affinity was fire. It's good that you have put so much effort into another discipline at such a young age. It means you are more versatile, allows you to have more tricks up your sleeve for a fight. Jiraiya saw that this made Sasuke smirk. But it means that you are far behind what someone say like the Gaki over there is doing with his fire manipulation. Just to let you know, you will never be as good as the brat when it comes to fire manipulation. A scowl formed. Why are you telling me this? It wasn't something that he wanted to hear. Jiraiya didn't waste a second in continuing on. Because this will help you in the future. At the moment, the only reason Naruto and Konohamaru to a lesser extent are progressing quicker than you is because they have found their fighting style whilst you haven't. Naruto found his by his bloodline, as it forces him to be a close-range fighter, and Konohamaru, well, he got it because of his chakra pool being so large. It forced him into the role of ninjutsu juggernaut. Well, how do I find my fighting style? Sasuke immediately responded, wanting to solve the issue as soon as possible. That unfortunately is only something that you can find yourself, and it is going to take time. It will naturally develop over time as you find the way you gain more experience. Sasuke wasn't satisfied with that answer, however. Do you know what kind of fighting style I am leaning towards at the moment? As much as I don't like to make the comparison, you are similar in your fighting style to a young Orochimaru. This is the real reason why I agreed to train you. I wasn't able to stop him, but I can sure as hell make sure that another one doesn't come along. Yes, that's right. I am calling you out on it. Myself and others can see that you have solely your own interests at heart. Everyone can see you don't really care about the village. The thing that you have to realize, kid, is that everyone is selfish to a degree. If everyone can see that you only care about your own interests, then they will not want to help you, as they don't see any benefit to their own interests. When Jiraiya finished speaking, Sasuke had a lot to think about. End flashback. Yes. Finally, the signing bonus has come into my account. Naruto cheered when he opened the letter. Jiraiya, who was waiting for Naruto so that they could go to the training ground, became curious. Signing bonus, what was that for? Jiraiya asked, serious for once, which Naruto picked up on. Maybe I can use Jiraiya for some advice. I mean, he is mega rich with the Ika franchise and all. Oh, because of my performance at the Chunin exams, some dairy company wanted me to be their ambassador since I have the dead bone pulse, and they can spin their marketing into how I got strong from drinking milk since it has calcium. It's good cause they gave me money, and they gave me an unlimited supply of chocolate milk. A calculating gaze appeared on the face of Jiraiya. I see. You do realize that they are only sponsoring you, right? Is because they make more money off you than they pay you, right? Yeah, I know. But I thought it would be best to capitalize off the fame that came from winning the Chunin exams. I mean, at the moment, before the fight, I was maybe known to a few ninjas, but now I am known to pretty much everyone in the world. When the hype of the Chunin exams dies down, I will just go back to being known by shinobi. I wanted to get some quick, easy money when the civilians know who I am. Naruto replied to Jiraiya, showing his train of thought. Okay, just checking. I agree that you made your move at the right time. So why did you take the deal in the first place? I mean, wouldn't that just put an extra target on your back, which as a Chunin you don't need? Jiraiya questioned as they jumped along the roofs towards the training ground. I never wanted to become a ninja originally. The only way I can achieve my goal, since I am an orphan with no financial backing, was to become a ninja, as it was free entry into the academy as long as you passed. When he heard this, Jiraiya felt like a piece of shit. He knew that he wanted to instill the work ethic that came from a poor background, but he thought he put more money away so that Naruto wouldn't be forced into doing what he wanted. Did Sarutobi force Naruto into becoming a shinobi? He did not know the answer to that question. Now that he had time to understand the true difference between being a shinobi and a civilian, Naruto did not regret his decision one bit. I see. So what are your goals then, Naruto? Jiraiya questioned in a quiet voice. He knew he had fucked up when it came to raising Naruto, but he didn't know just how much of a screw-up he had been. My goal is to become filthy rich to the point where I can live my life however I want to without having any financial worries for the rest of my life. That and protect the people that I care about. This kid has a good head on his shoulders. I can definitely see why Danzo suggested to have the 3 kids fight it out for the title of Hokage. In reality, the only one who has the potential to take that position is Naruto. Konohamaru definitely has the potential, but he isn't mentally ready yet to have that much pressure put on him. That, including the fact that he doesn't have control of the Kyuubi, is a serious hindrance. Sasuke, on the other hand, can't be fully trusted with that much power, which leaves Naruto. He never wanted to make Naruto into a root soldier. He wants to use Naruto as a political figurehead. Well, if you ever want financial advice, feel free to ask me about that, as I am not only an awesome shinobi, but my bank account has a few zeros in it. Actually, I will. What do you reckon I should do to maximize earnings? Jiraiya looked down at Naruto for a moment. He could tell that this boy was dead serious. It was good to see that the Gaki had his future already planned out. What sort of targets are you trying to hit? Is this a short-term investment, or a long-term one? Well, I was planning on putting it into a house. So I guess long-term? Naruto queried. Now that he was finally getting to a point where he had some money to play with, he wasn't entirely sure what to do with it, and a house seemed like a good enough idea. If you want to make large amounts of money, I wouldn't recommend putting it into a house. Generally speaking, investing in property is for a small but safe return. Investing in businesses is a lot more high risk, high reward. Also, you shouldn't really invest in a house unless you plan on owning it for at least 20 years. They are a seriously long-term investment. Naruto said, more so to himself than anyone else, as he pondered what Jiraiya had told him. Admittedly, he didn't want to wait that long to get his return. Frankly, if you want to make the most money as quickly as possible, what you should do not focus on trying to make money directly. I know you're in the running for the Hokage position since I turned it down when they offered it to me. This was news to Naruto as his eyes widened. From a financial perspective, you should devote all of your time into getting the Hokage title, as there is a significant salary involved in being the Hokage. Naruto's eyes widened. He certainly didn't know this. And if I want to keep the job and continue earning the money, then I have to do good by Konoha and have the village's best interests at heart. Obviously, I would want to do the best job that I could anyway, but this is just extra motivation. Correct, Gaki. So what you should focus on is getting that position whilst putting as much money as you can into a high-interest savings account. If you get the position, you will be swamped during the beginning and won't have time to spend your money so that you can save even more. That way, you can save a ton of money and only really invest in what you think will work. Naruto nodded when he heard this from Jiraiya. Sure, he may have been a shit godfather, but at least he knew his money, and that was all Naruto cared about. Chapter 16, Until I Touch the Sky. Now, are there any more matters that need to be brought to my attention? Mei questioned as she just finished her first conversation with the new daimyo who had taken power. They had just finalized the agreement on the prices for each rank of a mission. It had been a long day as the village needed it, but it was something that was only going to continue. Yes. Our intelligence is now up and running, and it has come to their attention that Konoha has their hands on a member of the Kekkei clan who is quite skilled, Mizuki-sama. Ao stated with a frown on his face. He had no idea how the Leaf Village managed to get their hands on the prized bloodline, but he didn't like it at all. Tell me more about this shinobi, Ao. Mei stated with an inquisitive look on her face. Hi. His name is Naruto Uzumaki. He is a high B-rank shinobi in the bingo book placed there by Sunagakure. He is known for having the dead bone pulse and also killing the Jinchuriki of the One Tail, although it has to be noted, the Jinchuriki was not in any stages of his transformation. Seeing barely visible nod from his kage, Ao continued on. He is proficient in the use of his bloodline, has shown that he is proficient in Katan ninjutsu for his age, but his best skill at the moment is that he fasts, not for his age but fasts in general. I would say that his speed is on that of a low-ranking jonin already. What about him as a person? Are there any personality traits that we can exploit? It was the most obvious thing in the world to the Hunter Nin commander that Mei wanted this shinobi under her command. One of Kirigakure's more powerful bloodlines that was thought to be extinct was now in the hands of another, more powerful village. Damn Yagura deciding that all bloodline users should be extinct. If it wasn't for that, Kiri would be a much more stable and, more importantly, stable country. From what our spies in Konoha have managed to gather on him, the boy is an orphan and, interestingly enough, has a sponsorship deal with a dairy company after they saw what had happened during the Chunin exams. This would point towards that the child is motivated by financial gain. I assume our best way or tempting to the village would be to use money. Also, here, have a look at this photo. I think his appearance is quite familiar. At this, Ao handed Mei the dossier that had the information on Naruto. 2 seconds later, and her eyes widened to near comical proportions. Are you sure this is him? Mei questioned, to which Ao merely nodded. Mei was honestly shocked. You didn't need the Byakugan that was inside the head of Ao to be able to see just who this boy was a carbon copy of. To think that he had a kid. Do you know who the mother was? The elder ninja frowned. No, outside of his last name being Uzumaki, we have no reports as to who his mother is. So that would point towards Minato being the one who had the dormant bloodline in him. I can't imagine what kind of monster he would have been had he managed to activate it. Maybe that was how the Hiraishin worked. The toll on his body must have been immense, so the Kage DNA strengthened his body to be able to handle it. Ao, I have a mission for you, Chojuro and Suigetsu. Mei said as her mind 1,000 thoughts going through it. I have known about this for a while but have had more pressing concerns. With this new information of the Kage clan representative, this mission has become one of our highest priorities. Raiga Kurosaki has been spotted working around the Katabami gold mines in the Land of Rivers. I imagine he is collecting the gold to make money. Your mission has 2 objectives. The first is to kill Raiga and obtain the Thunder Fangs that he possesses. Given Mangetsu's affinity with the blades, Suigetsu I believe will be the right person to wield them. Ao didn't necessarily agree with that opinion of the Mizukichi. He had been on the receiving end of her temper far too many times, and he didn't want to be on it again. The second half of your mission is to obtain the gold that Raiga is hoarding and use it to persuade the loyalty of the Kagaya boy. Whatever is left remaining will go into the village funds. Ao nodded in comprehension. And if he doesn't comply, we will kidnap him so that when he is older, one can impregnate fertile women with his DNA. Ao added on top of what Mei said, thinking that it was the right choice to make on the field. The power of the dead bone pulse was simply far too strong in the hands of another village. It was also theirs, not any other village's property. Older, impregnate fertile women. Shut up, Ao, or I will kill you. Mei hissed as killing intent flooded the room. Naruto jogged to the tower. It was his first mission in 3 days and he was eager to find out what it was. He hoped it was a high-ranked one. Ever since he had been informed of the Hokage acceleration program, the lowest-ranked missions Naruto had been going on were B-ranked missions. He was keen to keep it that way. Walking into the Hokage's office, Naruto was not surprised to see Danzo-sensei. The other 2 people in the room he definitely was surprised to see. Asuma-sensei. Naruto greeted with enthusiasm. He hadn't seen his sensei in ages and he was definitely glad to see the man. How's it going, kiddo? The bearded man questioned to his student with a smile on his face. He too was happy to see one of his students. I'm here to kick some ass and chew bubble gum, and I'm all out of gum. You three have a mission waiting for you. Danzo, the ever-so-formal man stated, to which Naruto immediately straightened up. He still had his perfect mission record to maintain as well. Inoichi, you will be in charge of this mission, given the sensitivity of the mission. Asuma, you will be the muscle, the interim Hokage stated, to which both of them nodded. Hey Danzo-sensei, what's my role on this mission? Fodder. Chuckles ensued. Didn't know Danzo was capable of making jokes. You two will explain to Naruto what the mission is on the way to your destination point. This is a very important mission, so there will be no failure. Am I clear? Danzo questioned, although he didn't expect an answer. All three ninjas left the room after bidding farewell. Naruto, you will need to pack for at most 2 weeks' worth of supplies. This mission is sensitive, so we will discuss this on the road. The blonde Chunin didn't hesitate and nodded. When he got the all clear, Naruto immediately headed off towards home. I wonder what this mission could be. Surely, if it was a heavy combat mission, Inoichi wouldn't be in it, and I don't think that I would be up to that level since I am not a jonin like the others. This must have something to do with Inoichi's skill set. I guess that means that Asuma-sensei is the muscle and I'm the tiny muscle. When Naruto arrived back at the gates, with his backpack in check, Naruto noticed an addition to the group, and from what he could tell by Asuma, this wasn't someone he wanted to associate with. Are we ready? The blonde Chunin questioned, to which they nodded. Before Naruto took another step towards this mission, Asuma moved very fast. Naruto could barely keep up with his sensei as he watched the man smash his trench knife right into the base of the civilian's skull. I've wanted to do that for a while, Asuma said as he saw the stunned reaction on the face of Naruto. As his student was staring with a gaping expression, Asuma hoisted the man over his shoulder. Right, this mission is very sensitive, so let's make haste. Inoichi commanded, to which both Asuma and Naruto nodded their heads. As the trio of ninjas raced through the trees, Naruto finally felt as if it was time to ask the big question. So what is this mission that we are doing? Inoichi spoke up. This is an S-ranked mission. The second that these words ran through the mind of Naruto, the boy gulped. His blood ran dry. The last time he had been on an S-ranked mission was the Chunin exams. Konoha is making a military move in the tumultuous climate that is Wave Country. I am not sure if you are aware or not, but there is a civilian businessman who is ruling the country through hiring ninjas to do his dirty work. He pays off the daimyo, so he has free rein to undertake his narcotics and slave trafficking. What Konoha will be doing is killing Gato, all of his accomplices, and also killing the Wave Country daimyo and instilling the man that Asuma is carrying as the new daimyo. That must be the reason why Asuma dislikes the guy that he is carrying. He must have been the person who lied on that mission which got Shikamaru killed. Naruto had a newfound respect for the professionalism on display by his sensei. He knew that if he was in that position, then there was no doubt in his mind that his personal feelings would take over. So what advantage is it that we are getting out of this? I mean, I know that we wouldn't be doing this out of the kindness of our hearts, but the only thing I can think of that we would be getting out of this would be some sort of territorial advantage against Kirigakure. Naruto thought out loud, hoping someone would fill him in. It's actually Kumogakure. At this point in time, Kirigakure is not a threat. They are just coming out of the civil war and are in even less of a position to exert financial muscle. Kumogakure, on the other hand, are arguably the strongest nation, including us. They are far more militaristic compared to us, and since we got hit hard by the invasion, we aren't in a strong position. If Kumo did the same thing that we are doing to Wave, then they would have a massive advantage over us if a war ever broke out. It would allow them to attack from 2 fronts and scissor our forces on that side of the nation. Konoha cannot allow this to happen under any circumstance, which is why Inoichi comes in. Asuma informed his student, who nodded, understanding now why this mission was S-ranked. Whilst he loved to test himself, Naruto was confident that he wouldn't put up much of a fight against someone of that ilk. He had gotten trounced by Guy and Jiraiya recently, so he knew what it took to be at that level. Gato still has Zabuza Momochi under his payroll, so you should definitely expect combat. Oh, don't you worry, Choichi-senpai. I've been looking forward to this for a long-ass time. The blonde man shook his head. Anyway, I have been tasked with implanting thoughts and suggestions into the mind of this man here as we make him the daimyo. I won't be brainwashing, but I will be making it so that whenever he does anything that is in the best interests of Konoha, he will get a release of dopamine and serotonin. When he does anything that is negative to Konoha, he will get massive withdrawals of those hormones. Ibiki has also spoken to the man heavily about the reason why he is getting released from prison so early for committing a federal crime. He knows he has a role to play, and if we believe that he is not acting in Konoha's best interests, then we will take appropriate measures. Ibiki, that's the guy who ran the first test of the Chunin exams. It suddenly dawned on Naruto that he was finally entering the big leagues. Initially he thought of his sensei as just a Suma-sensei. Now he was coming to realize that the man was an elite jonin, and was one of the top 10 strongest ninjas that Konoha had to offer. What was even more staggering was that he wasn't even the leader on this mission. It was the head of the torture and interrogation department, as well as the head of the psych ward of the hospital. This only included his duties as a clan head. It was a big step up from what he was doing earlier. The trip was much shorter the second time around for Asuma, and once they got past the river, Asuma dropped Tazuna on the ground. This was enough that when the man collided with the ground. What happened? Tazuna mumbled to himself as his eyes groggily opened up. Before he could even register what was going on, a jutsu was cast on him. His pupils rolled into the back of his head, and Naruto had to support his body weight whilst Inoichi did this thing. It was a long and tedious process what Inoichi was doing, and it finally took 45 minutes for everything to be completed. As Inoichi exited the mind of Tazuna, the man started to come into the land of consciousness. Tazuna, just as we agreed, we are taking you out of prison and taking you back home to your family. Inoichi stated as much like Asuma. He was not at all fond of the man. The man instantly sobered up and somberly looked down at the ground, knowing what was about to take place. Yes. I know. Don't worry, you will get to see Tsunami and Inari shortly. You have to remember though that you are unable to tell them what happened. You must tell them that you have been held captive and tortured by Gato for the past 6 months. You finally got out of there and made your way to Konoha to get our help, which we are doing pro bono. It was not lost on Naruto just how much once this story got out how much it would look good for Konoha. History was always written by the victor. With that said, Team Inoichi traveled on towards their mission. As Naruto was on his mission, one individual in particular was training their ass off. That person was Temari Sabaku. The first was to kill the person who murdered her little brother Gaara. With that being Naruto Uzumaki, that meant that Temari had her work cut out for her, as she knew that Naruto was a promising shinobi who was only going to get even stronger. From what she had borne witness to and correlated with the reports, Naruto Uzumaki was proficient in katan release. Considering her goal was to kill Naruto, and she lived in the desert and had a wind affinity, it meant she was up shit creek without a paddle when it came to ninjutsu. That combined with the fact Naruto was extremely capable in taijutsu with his bloodline and all, it meant that she would have to rely on genjutsu out of the big three. Temari wouldn't give up on her wind ninjutsu or scrimp on her taijutsu training, as she knew that they would have to top-notch to combat against Naruto. The other goal that Temari planned to accomplish was eradicate all the other tailed beasts. She didn't want any child to have to go through the same torment and struggles that the village put her younger brother through. It was never his fault. It was the system that he grew up in. The only way Temari knew how to do this was to become the first female Kazekage. This was so that no child had to go through the same struggles that Gaara had gone through. Then and only then would she have the power to achieve what she needed, with Baki leading as the interim Kazekage until a long-term decision was made which was approved by the council and the daimyo. Temari knew that she had time on her hands. That boy, he definitely looks like Minato. They look too dissimilar to one another. That child has no doubt has the potential to be a damn good shinobi. The question is, will he ever be at that same level as Minato? Inoki was never as bad as the people who he managed on a day-to-day basis. He didn't share the same opinion as most IWA civilians and shinobi in that Minato Namikaze was death incarnate. The man just so happened to be a very good shinobi on the other side. Tsuchikage-sama. You have a visitor. It is the daimyo. His assistant stated, to which he nodded. He knew that this meeting was going to take place, he just had no idea what it was going to be about. To what do I owe the pleasure of this meeting, daimyo-sama? Inoki questioned with a small smile on his face. We have important matters of grave importance to discuss. Konoha is finally weak. They have just had the invasion dealt by the hands of Sunigekure, and Otogekure led by Orochimaru. This is now the ideal position for the land of Earth to strike and gain an advantage. Right now would be a good time to strike, but you would still have to consider the fact that they have 2 of the Sannin, Kakashi Hatake and Might Guy, who is proficient with the 8 gates. This is not to mention all of the bloodlines that they have at their disposal, And you also have to consider that they have the Kyuubi at their disposal. Inoki countered. Whilst he wouldn't mind taking Konoha down a peg or two, there were a lot of things to consider when war was on the table. Speaking of bloodlines, have you heard that Konoha now has a new bloodline at their disposal? I see. So this is what he really wants to talk about. No doubt one of his advisors showed him the bingo book entry that Tsunagakure put up on Naruto, and he must have noticed that he looks very damn similar to Minato. Yes, I did hear about that. From what I remember hearing, the boy won the most recent Chunin exams hosted in Konoha. What is your point? Inoki questioned, already knowing where this was going but not wanting to take any part in the future conversation. This only further served to annoy the most politically powerful man in the land of Earth. So you do know about him? The Earth Daimyo questioned, barely holding himself from getting out of his seat and standing up. Frustrated because he knew exactly where this conversation was going, Inoki let out his real feelings on the matter at hand. Of course I know who the brat is. It would take a retard to not be able to take one look at the boy and not be able to tell who his father is. Incensed at what he was hearing, Kosuke stood up, hands planted down on the table in front of him. Then why the hell haven't you done anything about getting rid of the spawn of that man? Inoki didn't waste any time as he stood up as well. Because I don't want to start another fucking world war. If we killed the boy, Konoha would no doubt go to war, and despite their weakened state, they would put up a decent enough fight that Kumo would be able to take us down with relative ease. Anger was clearly evident on the old man's face, and it only further served to make his nose even more pronounced. Kosuke momentarily faltered before his bluster returned. I will give you the full backing of my samurai force if it comes to that. The second that he heard this, Inoki, for a second reconsidered his options. He knew that Kosuke's samurai force was a considerable amount of troops that would no doubt aid the fight. That would only answer one question. The other, more important one was one that he simply didn't want to go to war. The amount of innocent deaths that it would cause was not something that he would like on his conscience if he was honest with himself. And you would send thousands of loyal, innocent IWA shinobi to their potential deaths just for the sake of killing one boy. A boy, might I add, that has absolutely no connection whatsoever outside of his genealogy. For Chrysake's, the boy was born on the day his father died. The normally reserved daimyo exploded with rage as he heard the words come from the mouth of the Tsuchikage. Does that bring both of my sons back to life? No, it doesn't, does it? I thought you of all people would be able to see this. Didn't the Yellow Butcher kill your firstborn son who was going to take over from you once you retire? I don't care if you are the daimyo or not, don't you ever think about bringing up his name again. I'll be damned the consequences and kill you myself if you bring up his memory in front of me in that light. A snarl came out of the mouth of Inoki as he said this, along with his nostrils flaring. This served to calm down Kosuke. Most people would calm down if the threat of death was coming directly at them. I see we are at an impasse, Tsuchikage. Regardless of your views on this, I am going to order to go to kill the wretched Namake's spawn, and if that brings war upon us, then so be it. Inoki raised an eyebrow, judging the man in front of him. And if I don't do that? Well, what would the populace of Awagakure think if all of the funding was sent the way of Tsunagakure because you wouldn't accept a mission to kill the son of the man who butchered thousands of families? A smirk appeared on the face of Kosuke, knowing that he had won the fight the two were having. Inoki didn't need to be told that it was a rhetorical question. He knew exactly what would happen if he didn't comply with the demands of the Earth Daimyo. There would be mutiny in the streets in a matter of hours and a civil war following shortly after. Fine, Inoki said through gritted teeth. A smile appeared on a face that it had no right to be on. I'm glad that we could come to an agreement, Inoki. I will be cutting our meeting short as I have some other business that I must attend to, Kosuke said before turning around and leaving the room. Unlike the last time, Asuma and his team did not have to cross the river by boat. Instead, since all shinobi were competent, trip was much shorter as they used chakra manipulation. Naruto, we will be splitting up here. You're going to be taking Tazuna here to his family and protect him until myself and Asuma to return. We will be taking out the daimyo, and it needs to be done with no traces back to Konoha. Naruto knew that stealth was not in his current skill set, so he was not annoyed by the comment. When we get back to Tazuna's house, we will be going to the daimyo's court and getting rid of the dead weight, Inoichi stated, to which the blonde-haired Chunin nodded. Right, Tazuna, if you would lead the way to your place, please. I assure you, I will be capable of protecting you. All right. To be honest though, you look like kind of a brat," the irritated man grumbled. He was not at all happy with the situation that he was in, but there was little to nothing that he could do to change that. He knew that he had made mistakes in the past that had caused the death of an innocent child, and this was his price. There was not a day that went by that he didn't regret what he did, and he wished that he could go back and plead his case to the Hokage. Now that he had time to think about it, he was confident that Konoha would have made it an A-ranked mission with payment to come later. Now, because of that, he had indirectly got a kid murdered. The prison time didn't matter as far as he was concerned. "We will let the success of this mission decide that then," Naruto briefly replied with a frown of annoyance on his face. He could immediately tell that this was not going to be the best of missions. It was a half-an-hour trip at civilian pace to the home of Tazuna, and Naruto thought that given the mission at hand, there was a chance he could make a quick buck. "So Tazuna, if you were a betting man, what would you reckon that once everything settles down, we'll take off?" It was a bit of an odd question, he had to admit, but Tazuna didn't see any harm in answering it. He didn't believe that Naruto would be able to make anything off of it. The transport industry, I am sure of it. With Gato getting taken care of, Wave Country won't let the chance of having someone else come in and make the same power plays. With having a state-owned transport network, it will mean that our future is safe. Naruto nodded in contemplation. So how would you go about creating that transport company? Not to be an arsehole or anything, but Wave isn't the most financially prosperous place to be living. Tazuna had to admit to himself, he was surprised that the boy was taking this much of an interest in the topic. That is true, but one of the conditions of what is going on is that the infrastructure that Gato has will now become our own as well as the money. The company will probably do something similar to an IPO to generate funds, but that will only be to people who know about it, and we will really only release it to people of Wave so that it stays in the country. It definitely helped that Naruto had waited until Tazuna had started drinking his bottle of rum straight from the lid before he started asking these questions. What Naruto didn't know was that Inoichi had set up a few suggestions in the mind of Tazuna so that he is more willing to divulge information to Konoha ninjas. Despite the words of Jiraiya echoing in his mind, Naruto was confident that he was looking at a deal that was low risk, high reward. They were opportunities that came by often, and the blonde was sure that this was going to make money. The only question was, how much money did he want to invest? Did he want to put all of his eggs in one basket, or have some money left over just in case this venture failed? Well, I am going to be getting paid an S-rank mission salary for this mission alone. That's enough for me to live off comfortably for a month in my small apartment. Also, now that I am going on higher-ranking missions more often, it will be much easier to save money here on out, and this opportunity won't come up again. But then again, do I really want to give up all of the money that I have spent so much effort in trying to save on a venture that might possibly result in losing all of my savings? I started from the absolute bottom, and all that can change in an instant if I go on a mission and come back permanently crippled. I would have nothing to live off and would have to rely on Jiraiya, if he helped out, that is. With all the effort I have put in, having to rely on someone else would be a massive kick in the nuts. No matter what happens, if I don't make a decision, I am constantly going to be thinking about the other option, and the proctor of the Chunin exams was right. Sometimes you have to make decisions without knowing all the information or any at all. I guess I will do it. Naruto muttered to himself, which made Tazuna look at him funny before going back to his drink, wondering how he was going to tell his family about what had happened these past 7.5 months. Knock knock. Carefully. When she heard that noise, Tsunami made her way to one of the nearby windows and tried to see who it was that was outside the front of her house. All she could see was that it was some blonde-haired teenager. If he was here for a negative reason, she wasn't confident that she would be able to defend herself against him and protect Inari. The mother of one walked into the kitchen and grabbed one of her knives just in case. "What do you want?" she questioned as she headed back over to the door. "Tsunami, it's me!" Tazuna shouted with a big grin on his face. He knew that she couldn't see it, but judging from the rushed footsteps, she knew it was on his face. The peephole in the door revealed exactly what the woman hoped it would. It was her father along with that blonde-haired boy that she noticed earlier. Immediately afterwards, the door flung open and Tsunami rushed into the embrace of her father. Tears fell down her face, cheek muscles that she never knew she had been hurting from smiling so much. "I'm so glad you managed to get back!" Tsunami elatedly shouted. She didn't even let her father explain himself before she spoke up again. "You have to tell me everything that happened. I'm sure that this is an interesting story." Tsunami said as she noticed that there appeared to be no lasting damage to her father except that he had lost a fair amount of weight. Ain't that the truth? Tazuna sighed mentally to himself. Well, how about we go inside and you get Inari so that I can tell you what happened? Tazuna stated, to which the woman nodded immediately. She knew that Inari would be very happy to see him. She was hopeful that this would break him out of his funk. Inari, come downstairs please, there is someone that is very excited to see you. The mother of one called out, and half a minute later, a small boy slowly, almost methodically came down the stairs. The second that his young eyes caught sight of his grandfather, they widened. Grandpa! Inari shouted as a big grin crossed his face, the first one that Tsunami had seen in a long time. Immediately, the pace increased as the 10-year-old rushed down the stairs and launched his body into the waiting arms. Where have you been, Grandpa? Much like his mother earlier, tears were streaming down his face as he said this. Tazuna grinned. He was beyond happy that he got to see this smile once more. He didn't care all that much what Konoha would make him do. The fact that they allowed him to leave prison early to see his grandson made him not care. Well, how about we sit down and me and my friend over can tell you two what happened? It was at this point that Naruto made himself known, pushing feelings of jealousy to the back of his mind as they wouldn't do any good. Who's that guy, Grandpa? The innocence of Inari questioned, wondering how he was connected to his grandfather. Tazuna's grin was at full force. This guy here, Inari-kun, is one of the super shinobi who's going to help Wave Country get freed from Gato. Whatever, come on, let's hear your story, Gramps. Inari said with a frown on his face that Naruto immediately caught. He wasn't entirely sure what it was for, but he could tell that the boy disliked him. Well, okay then. Tazuna said as the four of them made themselves comfortable on the couches. When I set out to make it to Konoha, I got ambushed by some of the men that Gato employed. They hurt me a fair bit, and then kept me locked up in prison for a while. I won't say what happened because it was super bad. Tazuna explained in a somber tone of voice. There was a look of horror on the face of Tsunami, as she could only imagine what happened to her father. After what had happened to Kaiza, she didn't want to know what had taken place. Inari meanwhile closed his eyes and clenched his fists in utter rage. I spent 4 months in prison living a very little food, which is how I lost so much weight. Tazuna didn't have to lie for this one, as it was indeed true. His family happened to think that it was the prison that Gato had, not the Konoha penitentiary. During this time, I bided my time and calculated all of the shifts of the guards, and when they were sloppy, I used a tool that I had made to grab the keys that the guards left there to torment me with. Once I got them, despite my handcuffs, I used my super intelligence and escaped. That's so cool, Grandpa. Inari, enthused, who was completely engaged in his idol's story. Tsunami didn't share the same opinion on the story, as she knew the man and found a flaw or two in the story. She didn't care that much as he was here now, and that was all that mattered. But if you were tortured and held in prison, how are you fine now with no injuries? Tsunami questioned with concern. Tazuna wasn't sure what to say here, since he was a civilian, and he knew that Tsunami wouldn't buy the story that a doctor would be able to do this. Instead, he turned to Naruto, hoping the teenager would help him out. Medical ninjutsu. It is where a shinobi specializes in medicinal practices, focuses their chakra, and can repair wounds. Depending on the proficiency of the person, anything is possible, from repairing a punctured lung to fixing a broken bone or to merely healing a minor flesh wound. Tazuna-san here was lucky enough that as he was escaping Gato, he managed to run into the chief of staff at the hospital, who was coming back from a seminar in a coastal town in Fire Country. Naruto explained to the 3 civilians, who looked gracious for the explanation. Right, so as Naruto-san here said, that super medical ninja guy fixed me up as I told him the story of what was happening in Wave, and he said that he would speak to the Hokage for me. Once that was settled, they agreed to send a team of super ninjas to help stabilize our country, and once we were on our feet, they would accept a slightly increased payment. Unfortunately, the invasion of Sunagakure and Otogakure happened during the Chunin exams, and as bad as it is to say, we had to sort our own internal affairs before we could offer to help other places as much as we would like to. Once everything calmed down in Konoha, this mission was back on the cards. Naruto said, finishing off the story that he and Tazuna had fabricated. It won't work. You might as well just give up now, Inari said with a frown on his still growing face. No matter how hard you try, you're never going to defeat Gato, Inari said, not wanting to lose the grandfather that he had only just recently had returned to him. With the boy looking at him expecting a response, Naruto merely eyed Tsunami quickly to notice that she had a look of concern on her face as well as frustration. Naruto liked to think that this was because it had been going on for a while. That is not the correct attitude to have. The blonde merely stated, not wanting to piss off a client by insulting his grandchild. To say that Inari was livid was an understatement. If there was one thing that kids hated more than anything, it was being seen but not heard by adults. The kid didn't like what he heard from Naruto. You seem to have this confidence that you are going to be the hero that this place needs. Well, heroes don't exist. No matter how confident you are, you're going to die. You're no match for Gato's men. When the weak go up against the strong, they die. Naruto was annoyed at the comment. He really wanted to say something, but he didn't want to piss off the client. The Chunin knew just how crucial this mission was to Konoha's future in case war broke out. Please stop talking, kid. You don't know what you're talking about. I am not like you. I'd hate to be like you. You don't know anything about our country and yet you think you are the answer. What the hell do you know about me? You come from a rich place like Konoha. You don't know what suffering is living in place which has ninjas to protect you from evil like Gato. Killing intent flooded the room and both Tazuna and Tsunami were glued to their seats. Inari was doing an admirable effort in not passing out as he was on the verge of hyperventilating. Let me make a few things clear, little boy. The only reason you are not on the ground clenching your broken jaw is because this is a very important mission. When you have a scraped knee, you go cry to your grandfather about whatever inane and trivial scrape you got after falling over and he cleans the injury, puts a band-aid on it, and wipes away your tears right. Just like how your mother is there to comfort you when you get bullied by the other kids. Your mom consoles you and tells you that everything is going to be alright, and she helps you get your confidence back, right? The only thing Inari could do was nod. Well, you had a lot more of a head start on life compared to a lot of other children, myself included. I am an orphan. Unlike you where you get to whine like a little bitch until your mom or grandfather fixes whatever issue you have, I had to stop crying like a little baby and get back up on my feet. I started from absolute nothing and worked damn hard to get to the point where I am in my life. I am not going to let some midget with a walking stick dictate to me how to live my life. In all honesty, people who complain about their situation but don't do anything to solve it are the worst people in the world. Look at your grandfather. He is at least trying to do something to make sure that you have a better childhood. Are you really going to insult what he is trying to do for you and your family? Inari was unable to handle the question and instead chose to get out of the chair and run to the safe haven that was his bedroom. As Naruto calmed down, the killing intent dissipated. I am sorry for what I said to Inari just then. I should be better than responding to insults from children. I believe it would be best if I leave for a while. I will be nearby and alert if you need me, however. Naruto stated before he shunshined out of the room. He didn't wait for a response. The next morning, Naruto spotted Inoichi and Asuma-sensei arriving to the location and he was glad. He wanted to complete this mission and go home as soon as possible. Everything has been completed successfully on our end. Have there been any complications looking after Tazuna-san? Inoichi asked immediately as he got within hearing range of Naruto. Naruto shook his head negatively. No, there have been no complications so far. We encountered no interference on the way to his house. Good. Naruto, I want you to get some sleep and then at night, the final stage of the mission will go ahead. Asuma, you and Naruto will head over to the location of Gato and eliminate all forms of opposition. Whilst that is happening, I will take Tazuna to the capital and inaugurate him as the new daimyo. Inoichi commanded, to which the other two nodded. Later that night, Naruto had just caught up on his sleep and then watched as Inoichi and Asuma slept to recover as much alertness as possible. With everything now set in place, Naruto and Asuma went one way and Inoichi went the other. With the direction that Inoichi had sensed the chakra coming from, it didn't take much time to make their way to the base that had been set up. Alright Naruto, here's the plan. I have been around the block a fair bit, and know what Gato's type is going to be. He is going to be in the highest part of the building because he thinks he is invincible. We get in, do the job and then eliminate all of the bandits there, as once they find out that their boss has been killed, they might come to the village and ransack it. Ideally we will be not facing any resistance outside of the bandits, although Zabuza and his accomplice, but if it comes to it, expect to fight them and do not hold back. Zabuza is someone who doesn't need an introduction, but the accomplice had speed that at least a special Jonin would have. Unfortunately, that is all I know about the person. There was a confident grin on the face of Naruto. Don't worry, sensei, I have grown a fair bit since you last saw me fight. I have a few tricks up my sleeve which I don't think an enemy would like at all. Hey, I'll see it when I believe it, Gaki. Let's go, Asuma stated before the two darted off. Naruto trailed behind Asuma as the two raced towards the mansion. Follow me, Asuma called out as the ninja jumped through a large window. There's two large chakra signatures approaching quickly. I am sure that this is Zabuza and his accomplice. Quick, we need to ensure that Gato is dead. Naruto did just that, and when they went into the house from the window, Naruto spotted a man with a mace in his hand outside a door. Naruto immediately fired off some finger bullets in his direction. The man didn't even have time to react as the bullets entered and exited his body in less than a second. He slumped to the floor as blood pooled around him. Asuma didn't wait as he busted down the door. Both the Jonin and Chunin of Konoha were greeted with the sight of a man who had a severe case of a receding hairline. Gato, you are hereby sentenced to death for the crimes committed to Wave Country. Look, I can cut you a deal, okay? Just please don't kill me. What do you want? Money, women, anything, you name it and I can get it for you. No. We will not be swayed by any and all attempted bribes. You will die today, Asuma said with a frown on his face. He didn't like at all what the man was doing to this peaceful place. He had been on missions previously here and it was once a nice, prosperous fishing town. Naruto popped up. I don't know. I mean, how much money are you offering? The look that was on the face of Asuma was something that Naruto almost laughed at. What the fuck are you doing, kid? Asuma knew that Naruto had a large obsession with money, which he largely put down to the fact that the boy was an orphan, but Asuma didn't think that Naruto would stoop to this level. He gave the boy a leveled glare and saw a small smirk on his face, and Asuma almost couldn't help himself but grin as well. Gato quickly realized that this was his chance. If he ever wanted a chance to live, then he had to take it right now. Done! Name your price and I will write it down on this check, Gato said as he quickly pulled out his checkbook. $1 million. What? That's preposterous. That's more than double than what I am paying that fool Zabuza. There's no way in hell I'm paying that much money to a fucking kid. Alright then, have it your way. Asuma, he's all yours, Naruto said before turning to the side. Wait. Alright, I will pay it, Gato said as sweat rolled down his brow. Just you wait, kid. I am going to make your life miserable when this is all over and done with. This had better be worth treason that I will be committing. Naruto mumbled loud enough that the other two people in the room heard. Hand the check over if you value your life, Naruto said as he held out his hand. Once the check transferred hands, Naruto turned around and got into a fighting position facing Asuma. When he saw this, Gato breathed a sigh of relief. His near-heart attack was on hold for now. Naruto! Get back! Asuma barked out his orders as he sensed the impending arrival of shinobi. Naruto did just that and shunshined back to where Asuma stood before immediately firing off his Katan, Tenshi Shoryuken, fire release, drilling finger grenades, off at Gato to finish the man. Before they could connect with the man who had a look of fear and anger on his face, a massive blade appeared out of nowhere and caused a massive explosion when the two forces collided. If you want me to protect you, you're going to offer me double what you just gave that kid, Zabuza gruffly stated as he stared down at the two shinobi who had managed to breach the mansion so quickly. Well, Asuma, is this kid going to die like your previous student? I'm already paying you a lot of money. Yeah, and that contract is solely for killing the bridge builder guy. If you want me to save your ass from this situation, then you are going to pay me extra. Gato hated the position that he was put in by two separate ninjas in the space of a minute. He knew though that there was nothing that he could do. If he got out of this alive, he was definitely going to have to rethink his dealings with ninjas. Fine. Just make sure you damn kill these people, Gato grumbled, now confident that he was going to live. He didn't exactly have much faith in the younger shinobi from Konoha, but he didn't have much of a choice at the time. The second that he said this, Gato got out of his chair and ran to his balcony. The set of stairs out there would be a much safer escape route than what the normal way would be. Naruto, we can't waste any time. As much as I would like to torture the two in front of us, our mission is Gato, not them. Let's bring some heat. Gacha Sensei Katan, Gakakyu no Jutsu, Fire Release, Grand Fireball Jutsu. Naruto called out right at the same time that Asuma went through his own hand seals. Shit! Haku. We need to cool things down. The two ninjas both went through the same seals. Suetun, Suijin Hiki, Water Release, Water Formation Wall, was called out as they a massive water wall from me inside the large room of Gato's mansion. Fall back. Yes, Zabuza-sama. The two ninjas jumped out the glass window planning to put distance between their enemy. They wouldn't be able to effectively use the mist that Zabuza was famous for. When the steam cleared enough to the point where Naruto and Asuma could see through it, they both noticed that their opponents had left the room. They were still on guard. Gato also went that way. We have no choice but to follow them even if we are walking into a trap. Asuma stated, which Naruto acknowledged. Right. Naruto said as the two ran out and were immediately assaulted by a giant swinging blade. Naruto had chosen to use two bone spears as his form of defense whilst Asuma used his trench knives. So you're that Kaguya kid I have been hearing so much about recently. I guess we will see who has the better Kiri bloodline then, won't we, Haku? Zabuza grunted as he followed up with another swing of his famed sword. Naruto was definitely impressed with the amount of strength that was needed to swing that blade with such force without gravity affecting the trajectory of the blade. Naruto didn't have much time to admire the body of Zabuza as he saw incoming Saban. Instead of dodging the incoming metal of death, Naruto smirked, eager to show off his newest creation. Boom! The bone clone stated before it exploded in a shower of bone fragments that immediately went in every direction. Zabuza and Haku did their best to dodge the incoming fragments that they knew would do large amounts of damage if they connected. Zabuza had the luck of using his blade to block a large surface area so that the bits of bone hit the sword instead of his flesh. Haku didn't have the meat cleaver at his disposal, but he still had ways of negating the attack. The Hayaton user created an ice mirror as quickly as he could and walked through one side and out the other. The bones sent by Naruto didn't have the luxury of being able to traverse the ice as easily as Haku did as they connected before sinking in about 5 centimeters into the 10 centimeters thick ice wall. Naruto and Asuma burst out through the hole in the wall. Asuma going straight for Zabuza in a vicious Kenjutsu battle. Naruto sped almost as fast as Asuma, which was surprising to the bearded Jonin. I knew that Naruto was fast, but I didn't think he would get this fast this quickly. I'll have to up my own training to make sure he doesn't pass me until he is at least 20. Naruto ran around the side of the mirror, and as he was running, a small spike came out at a surprising speed. He did his best, but a small cut appeared on his arm and blood started trickling out. The Chunin quickly realized that he was dealing with a good shinobi, and his bones came out into the positions he used for his taijutsu style. A few of the blades that were closest to Naruto's hands were faintly glowing orange. Naruto quickly closed the gap on his foe, who was moving fairly fast, but he was glad that he had been working on his speed recently. Naruto swung his elbow at Haku and intended to catch the Hayaton user with the bones sticking out. Haku dodged the attack and threw the Senbon in her hand straight at Naruto right at point-blank range. In an impressive display of reflexes, Naruto parried the weapon off to the side as he continued on his path. Naruto swung another fist. He is too fast. The only way I would be able to match this speed would be in my mirrors. I also can't attempt to block the attack, as that would pretty much be suicide. I must win for Zabuza-sama though. Haku moved to dodge the attack completely. She wasn't fast enough, however, as Naruto managed to rake 2 knuckles down Haku's arm starting at his chest. Naruto grinned as the 2 knuckles that had made contact had small bones protruding out. It was a shallow cut, but it did travel the whole way down the arm, and Naruto was happy about that. Naruto watched as the Shunshin took place. Katon, Tenshi Shuriuden, fire release, drilling finger grenades. Naruto shouted out as he fired off the elemental enhanced bullets. Because they were his own bone, they took so little chakra to fire off. Naruto had no need for kunai and shuriken. There was the added benefit that he could use this with his elemental chakra, which made it far more versatile. Having seen this jutsu previously, Haku quickly brought up an ice mirror once again. Once her defense was complete, Haku used the nearby water thanks to Zabuza, who was currently in the midst of his own fight. Suetun, Sensatsu Susho, water release, 1,000 water needles of death. Naruto dodged the incoming needles, but not before taking one just above his kneecap. The blonde-haired teenager grunted as he ripped out the Senbon and threw it back in the direction that it came from. Naruto was frustrated. He knew he had the advantage when it came to speed, and yet he still hadn't made the most of that minor skill difference. I have to finish this guy off as quickly as possible. Asuma-sensei needs my help, and also, there is Gato who we have to kill. Naruto sent fire chakra to his legs, which allowed him to move that little bit faster. It was something that he had been experimenting with recently, and he noticed that whilst it didn't give anywhere near the same performance boost that lightning chakra did, it warmed up the muscles so that they could perform at their optimal best. It was a small difference, but Naruto hoped it would win the fight. Naruto moved at an even faster speed and zeroed in on his opponent. His first attack was a feint, his next attack was not. Naruto focused on firing a single bone bullet from his finger as quickly as he could. The bullet embedded itself into the abdomen of Haku and blood started pouring from the wound immediately, staining the man's clothes. The Uzumaki didn't waste any time as he produced a bone spear in his right hand before driving it straight through the ribcage of Haku. Tears were running down her face, but not from pain. "I'm sorry, Zabuza-sama, I was not more useful. I have failed you." Naruto panted hard as the weapon was discarded into the ground. One thing that Dr. Yakushi had warned him about was to never let the bones that had someone else's blood on them recede back into his body. That was how you got AIDS. No one wanted to get AIDS. Naruto let the fire chakra release from his muscles. He knew that he had to refine the technique as it increased his heart rate significantly. "Guess I have to do some more conditioning when I get back home." The Chunin stood up and inhaled as much air as he could into his desperate lungs. Having wasted enough time as it was, Naruto headed off into the direction that he last saw Asuma-sensei.